he wants, but he will be joining us hopefully for the talk show section. So what we're going to do today, kind of just going over the general agenda, is we're going to be talking about kind of some basics of Terran versus Protoss. We're going to go over a replay, one of Nyoken's, actually I think from BSL. Is that correct, Nyoken?
Yeah, it's from BSL.
Yeah, so one of his BSL Protoss victims got destroyed by Nyoken. So we're going to be going over the standard 2-1 push, I believe. Is that correct? Am I just screwing that all up? Okay.
Standard.
So yeah, standard 2-1 push. Again, on the show we try to kind of teach builds that are as standard as possible, nothing too crazy. And I think learning the 2-1 push for Terran is definitely something every new player should also kind of try to pick up. After that, we'll go over some viewer-submitted replays. I think we got one, although if you still want to submit, you still have some time in my Discord channel. And then afterwards, we're going to go talk about some various Starcraft Remaster topics like, TVP meta. We could talk about, the ASL qualifiers. We could talk about Gypsy's return to Starcraft. You know what I mean? We can do all these things. Yeah. And at the end, we could do some Q&A for anybody that has any questions. Sorry if I don't catch any of the questions throughout the show, just because we'll be focused on the contents. But towards the end, if you throw a question in the chat, we should be able to pick it up. And if it's from me or Nyoken or Gypsy or whoever you want. So, all right. So without further ado, we're gonna get started. Make sure you guys tell me on the chat if our sounds are off or we need to edit anything, but I could do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and create the first game, and Nyoken's gonna join me soon. Okay, so let's get started. This is a TVP on Benzene. What is this, the quarter or semifinals of BSL?
Yeah, it's the semifinals.
Semifinals?
Yeah, right before me versus Nagram. I played Terran versus Protoss, I don't know, back to back or more than that, but I played versus Protoss quite a bit. And if you guys watched BSL, as you could probably tell from the finals, I had lots of builds that I showcased. So I was using the same Terran versus Protoss build basically the whole way through, and this is just one of them.
Right, yeah, I think I remember the same thing. By the way, is there a way you can up the volume on your mic, actually? I have you on max. I actually turned myself a little bit down, but it looks like some people in the chat saying you're a little low.
What about now?
Oh, that sounds better. I think that's better. Is that better, guys? Well, we'll keep going, but then, yeah, we'll let the chat kind of determine what's...
I just got a new mic, so I don't know what to set it at yet. So, yeah, just give me feedback would be nice.
Yeah, awesome. Dude, Nyoken's investing in some good quality sound equipment, but it sounds like it's better now. Okay, all right. So this is a BSL game. This is Nyoken versus, where is it? Mazur, is that? Mazur, who, yeah. I know he's a pretty good Protoss. I think you sweeped him though, right? Like I think I remember you seeing him.
Yeah, but if you watch the games, they were not domination.
Okay.
Just like most of my games in BSL were pretty close. For sure, right. If something was a little different, instead of me going undefeated all the way to the finals, I definitely could have been knocked out. But fortunately for me, that did not happen.
Okay.
But yeah, this game we just did a standard 12 gas game. Now my standard generally is gasless expand, so it took me a long time to figure out what game I wanted to show here, but this one I thought was pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's on Benzene, and really
right.
On Benzene you can't really gasless expand, so
yeah, no, that's good, because I think it's good to show a one factory expand build for all the Terran players that are learning. I think the gasless expand is definitely very strong. It's very popular. But I feel like it's very vulnerable to like a single Zealot, as many Terrans know. So I think it's kind of good going over like a build like this. But what's your reasoning here for not scouting at all? Usually Terrans scout at around like 13, or are you just very confident about what he's doing?
Yeah. So to be honest here, I don't know why I didn't scout.
Okay.
Generally, you want to scout around 13 or 14.
Okay.
You want to see whether they went Nexus first, and if they did go Nexus first, one of the common follow-ups is an SCV pull. You can also just go one fact Vulture Mines, which is my preferred build because I must have like the worst Marine and SCV control on the planet because
Yeah.
but yeah, this was a definite late scout. I can't remember why I didn't
Hmm.
scout. But
Right.
yeah, so we're scouting now, but this is definitely late. But
Okay.
other than that, everything else is pretty normal. We've got our racks, we got the Marine, we got the depot on time. Everything is pretty standard.
So what's the reasoning here for only getting one Marine? I feel like from a a non-Terran player, is it more because you kind of know his style a little bit, and do you just start building Marines as you see the Zealot, and it's fine to micro that way, or do you generally kind of conserve as much money as you can on the Marines to kind of get your command center up faster?
Yeah, I definitely should have built another Marine, at least one more, because regardless of what you see, you need to have 2 Marines at
Right.
least, plus an
Uh-oh.
SCV to fight the Dragoon.
Right.
So I should have done that, but it looks like I skipped a little bit, and you can see because I have skipped the 3rd Marine.
Right.
Oh, okay. Somehow he got his Zealot around here, and I didn't see it. But you could see I was setting up for 2 Marines and an SCV on the ramp. That was just to prevent something like this. But his
Yeah.
Zealot has snuck in here. But because of the SimCity, we've got a nice SimCity here. Gonna take minimal damage.
Right. So,
Did
so
I
you're
hear the probe die? Like, do I have...
yeah, the probe just died.
On my screen, it didn't... Wait, what am I watching?
Is your is the replay broken?
Oh,
for you?
I'm an idiot. I'm watching your stream.
Oh!
In game, I'm like, how did it die? I don't even see it dying.
Yeah. So there's like a little bit of a stream delay here. Okay. So are you in the game now?
Yeah, okay, I'm
Okay.
okay, so yeah, we killed the Zealot in the probe. Now you really need to have a couple Marines on the ramp. This time I pulled SCVs because we had drawn our Marines out of position, but
Right.
basically this is pretty normal. 2 or 3 Marines on the ramp. And then, depending on the game flow, might need 1 SCV or so to stop the Dragoon. This game, we
Right.
definitely had to get an SCV out there. But we are just transitioning into the standard tank and siege follow-up, and my SCV got back into his main. I did a secondary scout after seeing his opening where I didn't see any hidden tech or something. So now I get in here, I see nothing.
Right.
So this could either be alarm bells, but I don't notice anything weird. I see
Yeah.
a Nexus, I see enough pylons where I'm pretty confident it's not hidden tech.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm getting pretty greedy here. We got Academy. There's no eBay yet. Some players might put down an eBay, but when you see something like this, pretty normal. You just power really hard.
Right.
And now on Benzene, I like putting the tank, whether it's your first tank or second tank, in this bottom area.
Interesting,
There's
yeah.
no way they can shoot it, but it covers the entire area of your nat, so it's a really nice spot.
Right. So just really quick, let's back up actually. And I kind of want to pick your brain about this, but let's say you know how you're getting your SCV on the right side. Let's fast forward here. I kind of want to know like how does like your decision tree change based off of what you scout with this SCV, right? So you fended off the Dragoon, you fended off the Zealot, right? So your SCV is scouting here, and then boom, you see the Nexus, right? So obviously every Terran, when I play Terran, I'm always scouting to see if this Nexus exists or not at this time. So usually, what's the general timing for when a Terran should be scouting for this Nexus? Like, if they just put their SCV at another corner, like what's the good timing to send it in so you catch if it's a fast Nexus? And how does your build change if you don't see the Nexus?
Yeah, so after the initial scout, I like to come back in around 420 or 415 because that'll be when the Nexus goes down after a 3 Dragoon expand.
Okay.
If you don't see the Nexus by then, you know something is up because the standard play is either a 1, 2, or 3 Dragoon play. If it's none of those, it's going to be something weird. And if I see no Nexus, instantly put down the eBay because if you put
Okay.
down an eBay later than even 420 might be seconds late, but maybe 415-ish. If you
Right.
put an eBay down later than that, you cannot stop DTs. You just can't. The
Right.
DT will run by the turret. So it's mandatory that you eBay after that. But if you see something like this, put down that Academy. You don't need the engineering bay because by the time, if they go for a delayed DT,
Yeah.
you'll at least have scans. Now, with the Academy, you don't want to scan immediately because you
Yeah.
want to be safe. You want to make sure that there's no DTs coming.
Right.
So what you should do is you should constantly check your natural for the blur. If
Right.
you see the blur coming, Usually a delayed DT will be before 6 minutes or 6:15. If it's after that, just scan their main and look
Right.
for what else they're doing. But you can and based on what you see, it's usually going to be Reaver or no Reaver. And if you see no Reaver, you just instantly build a command center. If you see Reaver, build that engineering bay and start putting turrets. That's
I
my
see.
general rule of thumb.
Okay.
Because you don't want to build the eBay. It's not beneficial to you at all. It's not like a cannon or
Yeah.
a sunken where it can actually deal damage.
Right.
Building a turret or getting even just the eBay is not useful. It's a lot of 125 minerals.
Yeah.
It's not exactly cheap. You could be getting your command center so much faster. So really, if you don't have to build the eBay, you don't want to build the eBay.
I see. Okay, so I feel like that's also the trend. Like, you know, sometimes I actually don't know exactly like when, like what the decision is to make that eBay first, after that expand, so you can fend off the DT. But so you're saying as long as you know there's no Reaver, and as long as you don't have to like rush against some sort of stupid fast DT, you're better off getting a scanner because then you can scan their base, right?
Yeah. Okay. So over the years, well, I guess it's going to be basically in the past year or so. When I was playing Terran through the years, I always thought ComSat was so expensive and
Right.
not really useful because back then your real only builds were 2-fact or 2-base 6-fact. So
Okay.
if I'm going to all in regardless, why am I building this ComSat to scan? But that's
Right.
not the meta these days. You don't do that.
Right.
So as I've gotten better, I've been realizing how op this scan is. Because you
Yeah.
scan at 6 minutes, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I see exactly what you're doing.
Right.
And then I can decide, okay, do I build the eBay? And if you build the eBay and they're going Reaver, the turrets come up like right when the shuttle gets there. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And then
I
if they're
see.
not going Reaver, you build a command center. And we can see that Mazur got a faster Nexus than us. So he kind of has a build order advantage here. But because you're Terran and how strong your mid-late game is,
Yeah.
even if your command center is slightly later than even a completed Nexus here, you're still okay. Ideally, you don't want to put down a third command center when their Nexus is already done and they're already mining from it, because that's a little
Yeah.
bit late. But we're
Yeah.
still not terrible.
Okay. So what was the so you got your comp set up. You scan him at about 6:30, right? So you saw him getting a robo. So the reason why you went out and you just built a third, right outside here, and you moved out, was because you figured by the number of the gateway counts, his robo barely finishing. Like, how do you know this is not like a Reaver? So let's go back to like the 6:30, really quick, just so like the Terrans know when to scan. And you also only used one scan, right? So it's like you're saying it's also good to maybe keep one scan just in the back, just in case there's like a DT or something.
Yeah, so let me see. Okay, so first off, this was basically a perfect timing for me because I scan and the robo's not even done. It's just completing.
Right.
So there's not going to be Reaver. And that
Okay.
means, based on what I said, that means we don't need an eBay.
Uh-huh.
So we're skipping the eBay. Really, all I'm worried about here is did he mass gate?
Okay.
So I'm going to continue to, can we play, see if I see anything else? Now we see this probe going over. I see him building a gate. And it went in an angle where it looked like he was going to build another gate.
Right.
And I feel like at this point, if you're going to be timing attacking me, you would have already built in the gates, right?
I see. So you're saying that if it's like a two base all in or whatever like that, he would have already had more than a couple of gates. Okay.
Yeah, he would have already had them because you don't really want to be building them now because then your attack's going to be way later. So I'm pretty confident that he took a third base. Not exactly sure. I'm scanning the NAT to confirm it now. You can see I scanned the third base because it is kind of weird to scan at 6:30 and see the robos just finishing, and then on top of it, you're building gates. This could be something like 2-base Arbiter, where they just skip the robotics. But in my game so far with Missouri, hadn't been doing that. But for sure, it could have been 2-base Arbiter, and then the scan was a little off, and I think this might not have even seen the Nexus.
Yeah.
Plus there, so this was a bit not great.
Right, but does the lack of a second gas tell you that this is not a 2-base Arbiter?
Yeah, there's no gas. There's no way he could have Arbiters here because Arbiters, what is the most expensive gas unit in the game? So this has got to be an expansion build, probably fast, very fast third base, just because of how late his gates were.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty confident here that I'm not getting busted. I don't have to really worry, but I do like putting down this SimCity that I'm doing here with the depot rack bunker because if they do decide to do some sort of weird bust, this bunker I can don't underestimate. This bunker it soaks up so much damage. And if you have
Right.
SCVs to repair it, these
Yeah.
bunkers are heroic. I use them on all the maps: Circuit Breaker, Benzene,
Yeah.
Eddy. They're amazing. I highly recommend doing this.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, I mean, a lot of Protoss, even in the pro scene too, they seem to like busting the third base. You know, I mean, I feel like the bust is a little more like prevalent if they go for like a Reaver opening, because like, you know, these days it seems like they get like, you know, 2 or 3 shuttles and they go for like, you know, 12 goons or so and they just like drop on top of your tanks. But the bunker really does help out with that, right?
Yeah, it's insane. If you're ever getting busted, don't even think twice about pulling your SCVs. Just insta pull them because all you have to do is live.
Yeah.
And if you live, because your whole build is revolving around getting these upgrades, you're great. It
Right.
doesn't really just you gotta not die.
Right.
But that brings me back to something we haven't pointed out here: is the current meta these days is of course 2-1, and
Yeah.
when you're going for 2-1, there's a whole bunch of timings or potential armory timings that you can do. Either you start somewhere between 5 minutes, and I would say the upper bounds would be 6:30. And the reason you have this range is because if you get it at 5 minutes, it takes basically 7 minutes to get the +2 from when you start the armory. So you're looking at a 12-minute timing.
Okay.
Or if you start at 6:30, you're looking at a 13:30 timing. And all those, that small window is a good window at attack versus Protoss because around that time, you're going to be facing one Arbiter maximum.
Yeah.
You're not going to be facing multiple stasis.
Right.
So your army is incredibly strong. If you're not hitting this timing window where, let's say you're pushing out at 15 minutes or
Right.
later, now you're facing 2 Arbiters with multiple stasis possibly.
Right.
And that's not good for you. So
Okay. So
current,
yeah.
in meta, 5 to 6:30 is a good timing for you. And if you get a 6:30 armory, basically the only difference in your unit comp is going to be really, you're going to be more tank heavy than, well, you're going to have more tanks than a 12-minute attack, because if you're doing a 12-minute attack, that means you're very vulture heavy.
I see. Okay, yeah, I actually just rewinded the replay because I mean that's good knowledge too. So it looks like you're getting the armory about like 5:38 ish, and then you kind of just add 7 minutes to that to get your +2, right? Assuming that you know you're disciplined with actually upgrading and stuff. So when do you actually get your starport, right? Because it's like the idea is that you want to get the armory, and then around when it's done. So let's pause here. I think it's about like 8:20 ish, but it looks like do you usually get it around half armory? And then you put down another armory when you start your science facility?
Yeah, so a little less than half on the upgrade, so mine's a little late here.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal. But yeah, that's about when you want to start your starport. And then build an armory when you build your science facility.
Yeah.
That way they can all line up together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be looking for that 12 to 13 minute move out. It's such a nice timing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's good. So right now, at this point, you really... Okay. Yeah.
Wait, one more thing about Terran vs. Protoss. So this is something that I've had issues through the ages, is putting down factories. Now, you can see that I started my 3rd factory at around maybe like 8 minutes or so. It's completing now. But basically, what you're looking to do is you need to put down factories somewhere between 8 and 9 minutes to build a couple of them. You see, I'm floating a little money here, so I could have put down another factory. But then after those factories complete, around 10 minutes or 10:30 is when your rest of your factories go down. That's when you start seeing an explosion of factories.
Yeah.
If you don't hit these timings, you will not max
Okay.
at 13 minutes. It won't happen. So
Okay.
it's imperative that you hit these, because you're going for that timing. Every second you waste is essentially 1 point in energy for an Arbiter.
Right.
So there's a huge difference between a 13:30 timing and a 14-minute timing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I mean, I think that's like a lot of the, just in general in StarCraft, when you're going for timing attacks, like every second matters. You know, the macro cycles, just the money that they get at that point. So when you're going for this 2-1 push, how many factories are you aiming for? So you're saying you put down a few here, and then around that 10-minute mark, you start just exploding factories. And how many do you actually get?
Yeah. So there's multiple variations here. If you're going 3 base like we're gonna see this game. 8 to 9 is a good number. If you're going for 4 base,
yeah,
at least 10. Somewhere between 10 and 12 is a good number. And you want to have probably 3 add-ons if you're going to be going 4 base.
Okay.
With this style, 1 to 2 add-ons is okay if you're really on top of your tank production, meaning
Right.
you're not missing them.
Yeah.
Just leave 1 add-on because you're not going to have enough gas to build your tanks and get your upgrades and get your vessel and get EMP and build all these factories, because factories, each one takes 100 gas.
Yeah.
So you really cannot afford double add-on. But if you mess up a little bit, 2 add-ons is fine. You see I have 2 add-ons here. Now this game I think I must have messed up a little bit because my tank count is pretty, well, it's actually pretty high.
Yeah.
But somehow I have the gas. I think it might be because my science facility is a little late. You can see if I tried to get vessel and EMP right here, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get it. And that's because I have 1 extra tank here.
Yeah, I see. So it looks like you're going for 9 factories here, and then the thing to be keeping an eye on is really trying to hit that max amount at around that 12 or 13 minutes, and then kind of moving out. So is it kind of safe for a Terran perspective to just be like sitting and macroing at this point? Like, is this the easiest part of the maxing? I mean, should I be, moving around with vultures? Should I be like, trying to do some harass damage? Do you recommend anybody doing like drops, or is it best to just literally sit here and mass up for the next minute?
Well, if you've got godlike multitask,
Yeah.
then for sure you should mix in vultures and drops and stuff like that. But for me, I have a hard enough time just macroing. You have to
Yeah.
keep in mind what I was saying, where your build is revolving around this timing. If you're sending out 10, 12 vultures to harass and they die,
Yeah.
that's a full macro cycle down the drain, and that's
Right.
20 seconds of production. So for me, if you're gonna go for this style, I don't really think you should be harassing. If you
Okay.
want to just put some pressure on, like move some vultures around the map, but not necessarily have the intention of actually really doing anything
Yeah.
unless the opportunity presents itself.
Right. Right.
But laying mines everywhere and maybe a dragoon runs into it, that's a good hit for you.
Right.
So for
Absolutely.
me, I would just sit in your base. It's not like we're playing pros where it really matters
Uh-huh.
that much. If you can just hit your build order, a lot of the times you'll steamroll Protoss as long as your army is not completely out of position.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. So again, we're just gearing up. It looks like the Arbiter tech's a little bit slow, right? So I mean, we have close to 165 supply, 1230, and I feel like getting to the max point is actually really easy with vultures because vultures are so cheap and then they build so fast. So I assume once you max, you're gonna move out. And is that also the same time you take your 4th base?
Yeah, so with this style, when you max out, you want to be taking a 4th base and even a 5th base,
Okay.
because since you're not going for 4 base initially, where you're going to have a lot of gas banking up, you need to start ramping up your production afterwards. You need to start getting your tank count up, because let's say a fight goes poorly for you. Well, I can tell you can't sit in your base for 6-7 minutes again
Right.
building your tank count up off
Right.
of 1 factory. So
Right.
you got to get that gas going, and you got to put on multiple add-ons, maybe like 4 or 5 even,
Yeah.
depending how much gas you're banking. But you can see, as I say that, I'm approaching max. And look, I have a lot of gas banking up because we're just spamming out those vultures. So when I move out here, I'm expecting to probably put down 2 more add-ons.
Okay.
Now,
And
this
then-
is Benzene. This is a difficult map to move out on because it's got high ground and
Yeah.
there's this tiny bridge.
Okay.
But what
So-
you want to do as Terran, when you move out, you want to move out everything together.
Okay.
It sounds counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, what about stasis? And it's going to hit my whole army. Or what about storm? It's going to hit my whole army. Well,
Right.
the problem is if your vultures run out ahead of your tanks, they're going to get shot by dragoons.
Right.
You're going to start splashing your own units with the tanks in siege mode. So you really
Right.
need to keep everything clumped together and melt those zealots, because the real threat to your army is the zealots getting on top of your dragoons,
Yeah.
on top of your tanks.
Yeah. So it looks like you're really abusing this position here, because I feel like this move out in general, I think Terrans really struggle with this, right? Like, because Protoss is usually kind of sitting outside here, and then they ambush the bridge or wherever the Terran kind of has like this little bottleneck. So how do you kind of deal with that? So is the idea that you want to siege behind the bridge, let them bleed a whole bunch of units, and then you kind of slowly move past the bridge and then you move out? So like, what's the battle strategy here before we even go on?
Yeah, ideally you would want to have a few tanks behind the bridge and then a few tanks past the bridge, because you
Right.
need to slowly push. Because, like you said, Protoss is going to just abuse this angle.
Right.
You've got to be careful. It's similar to when you're a Terran taking your high ground third base on Fighting Spirit. You can't just run up there all willy-nilly into a
Yeah.
shot cave.
Right.
You just gotta play patient. But at the same time, as a Terran player, you feel pressured to do it fast
Mm-hmm.
because every second matters. When this Arbiter hits stasis
Right.
energy, it's a feels bad moment if they have
Yeah.
two of them, because you
Right.
feel like, oh, I just went too slow, and now he hit more than half my tanks potentially with two stasis.
Right.
So that's to be honest, that's one of my major issues with Terran versus Protoss is my fighting is I get too anxious to move out
Yeah.
and I lose too much. Like
Right.
right here, this is an amazing angle. Look, we have no support for the tanks. All of the tanks
Oh
are
man.
exposed. And remember, I have 2 add-ons, but for some reason, he's given me a gift, and he hasn't killed these 4 tanks. So that was very nice of him, but that could have potentially been really bad.
Right. Okay, so you're gonna still move out here because you did kill a lot of his zealots, right? And I think zealots are the key to the Protoss army because if it's just dragoons, it's so easy to just kind of bust. I mean, you can like just cut off like the reinforcements and stuff. So as you're doing all this, right, you're taking a fourth base, right? Because I think that's just like a general theory, like a general play in StarCraft is that you really want to be trying to take bases while you're attacking because the idea is that you're keeping your opponent busy so that you have the room to take an expansion. So are you also thinking kind of geographically here? So like even before we move on, like where do you intend on pushing? Like are you I think a lot of Terrans also struggle with this, like do I hit the expansion? Do I hit the other base? Do I hit the main base? And if so, where do I expand? So looking at your angle right here, are you going straight for the throat like his main bridge, or are you going for the top left? And or also, where are you going to take your fifth base? Is it going to be like 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and why?
Yeah, so you definitely need to be expanding at this point. You see I have my 4th command center at my
Yeah.
3rd base. I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't build it at bottom right, but I may have felt like he might have left a Dragoon there, and I didn't
Oh, I
want it
see.
to get shut down while I'm attacking, so I just
Right.
built it here. I'm going to float it, but definitely want to take 4th base. And because this is a 3-base build, if we look at the main and the Nat, we're about to mine out. Well,
Yeah.
we're about to mine out at the main, and the Nat's going to be mined out pretty soon too. And because this is benzene, 3rd base is even going to be mined out.
Right.
So really, you want to get 5 base instantly when you're going for this 3-base style. But
Yeah.
as far as attacking, I have a mine at top right. If there was no mine there, 100% I would be going up there because that's the easiest spot to attack. On top of it, you have this high ground
Mhm.
where maybe you can slowly push up there, and maybe most of your army's on the high ground, and that's an
Yeah.
advantage.
Right.
But here, if I'm going to do anything, I think, I don't know, because I lost a lot, but
Yeah.
he also lost a lot, but it's also so hard to attack across the bridges. You could potentially just sit on either platform
Okay.
and lay a lot of mines. I'm not sure exactly where I would want to go at this spot because I had lost quite a bit.
Yeah.
That I don't think attacking is that great because it's a Protoss player, and usually they're going to have more gateways than you have factories. So if
Right.
he has 15 gates, he could potentially be insta-remaxed here, and we haven't seen an Arbiter yet.
Yeah.
And you can be pretty confident that now the Gateway Man style is done for. We're going to see Arbiter pretty soon.
Right.
So I don't
Okay.
really want to be out in no man's land at
Okay.
150 supply.
Yeah. So you're saying right at this point the strategy is to just kind of take map control, take advantage of these big grounds, set up mines. You don't necessarily want to go for the throat or anything like that, right?
Yeah, I would probably think I should turn around the tanks at least.
Yeah.
Maybe just lay mines everywhere because, like I said, it's not like I'm going to push and kill anything. Now, when I see this Arbiter, his army's not that big after I saw it with a scan, but still, like, a lot of my tanks, they were in that fight, right? They're damaged. They're not full HP.
Right.
But, again, like I said, when you're, as a Terran player, you feel obligated to attack all the time because you know that every second you waste, this Arbiter is getting more energy. Like, I'm watching it during this fight. It's already gained 6 energy.
Yeah.
And we're approaching stasis time, right? So
Right. Okay, so looks like you push them back, and I think in general, if you can cut him off, I mean, you do know that there's a base at the 6 o'clock, so I feel like in this position, it would be pretty nice
but
to.
now that I know about...
Oops, it looks like
Hello?
you're. Okay, never mind. You're good. You're good.
I think I just dropped.
Are you still dropping? You're like lagging, but
Hello?
not. Yeah, no, you're still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, so it fixed itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, and you're still in the game.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, so I see 6. And now that I've kind of stopped his army with my first attack, and now we've stopped the Arbiter, now I feel like if I just set up a nice contain here, then I can set up for sending 2 tanks to bottom
Right.
and killing.
I see. Okay, so right now here you don't want to get too hasty because you lost too many units, right? And so this is a good, cost-efficient way to take down a base without losing your entire army. So one thing I also want to pause about is you're barely starting to make the turrets right now, right? So what's the reasoning about the timing? Is it because he made such a late arbiter? And also, if he went for like a two base arbiter play, you would probably turret up before moving out, right?
Yeah, so we see that the Arbiter's late, so now it's time to put turrets down.
Yeah.
Now, you would also like to put down mines, but because I feel like he's obligated to get something done about my army,
Yeah.
I don't feel rushed to
Right.
put them down because I don't think he's going to go insta-recall me.
Yeah.
But you do have to be aware of that, where if you are playing a Protoss that thinks like that, where, oh, well, I know Terran's army is over on the left side of the map, I go recall him now. We saw the Arbiter for just a second. It has 145 energy.
Yeah.
This would have been a great time for him to recall because I have nothing
Yeah.
in the main.
I see. Okay. So again, you're taking out the base. I mean, it looks like you're in pretty good position here, unless you save that base somehow. But it looks like we do have an arbiter coming out. So it really just seems like TVP has a lot to do with like just knowing when to attack, knowing when to defend, right? Oh, is your internet connection okay? Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I could hear you.
I don't know what the issue.
Yeah, it looks like it's just kind of lagging up a little bit. Or it might, yeah, people are saying it might be my internet connection or something, but looks like the lag is just kind of, well, we're at 1650, so if we need to remake, we can do that, but, I don't know if I should drop you or not. So is your internet okay?
I think I should probably restart my internet.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'll remake the game and then I'll just kind of just talk by myself then. Okay, let's be here. I think Nyoken is gonna be restarting. So anyway, sorry about the technical issues. It looks like I don't know if it's me or if it's him, but seems like his internet's a little bit choppy. But anyways, I mean, I'm learning a lot of good TVP here, right? Like I play it just kind of freestyling it, but at the same time I think learning kind of the theory behind that 2-1 push. It's really about, StarCraft in general seems to be always about reading your opponent's builds, right? Like looking at the opportunity to push out, when to take a base, when to put up turrets, when to attack, when to not attack. And I feel like in general for TVP, it seems like a very strong Terran player has a long-term vision of where they're attacking and where they're expanding, right? I think if you just view that 2-1 push as like this, I'm going to max out and I'm just going to roll out, I'm going to win, right? Like sometimes it happens because the Protoss has a bad engagement or you have a good engagement. But at the same time, I think the best of players plan out and, yeah, hello?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I was just talking about how I think the best of players for Terran, especially against Protoss, it's really just about the geography, right? Like, not overextending, not running into like a lot of Protoss and having your tank counts continually get reset and stuff. So, anyways, I was just kind of rambling on about TVP in general, but let's go back to the 650 mark.
Yeah, so this is a good example of what you're just saying with the geography. So now I told you my reasoning for setting up on the left side, right? That we have a lot of supply there, but it's not that much. It's what, maybe like 25 to 30? So
Right.
Pause. Now, that's a decent amount of supply, but look at the angle Mazur came from. He came from the right side, and now he's
Right.
picking off this small army.
Right.
Now I can't even reinforce. but I'm scrambling to get vultures there. So now this small army is exposed, and now he mistakenly, I think, ran some units through the bridge.
Hmm.
But you see he's got another group at his nat, and he can just swarm this army now. So despite what I said, this is an example of you feel like you're making a good move versus the Protoss,
Yeah.
but you're actually kind of overextended here, maybe, unless you've got flash godlike macro.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was saying, I think I told you the reasoning for me doing it, but you can see what happened where now all these units are exposed, where I would have liked more to just send my tanks back,
Right.
and then take my 5th base, and then maybe push from that angle.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm pushing from low ground to high ground to the 5th base that he has, at least my units, they're reinforcing from an angle where he can't flank from.
Right. Yeah. So it looks like, yeah, he's gonna complete the flank here, but you do kill the Nexus, so not all is lost, right? But at this point, you know, probably now you have to kind of go back home, reset to your tank count. I mean, is there a general rule for like how many tanks you need, or like the ratio between tanks and vultures? I mean, is there a rule at all? And if there's not, that's okay.
So, okay, my idea of how to build your army, it revolves around how many arbiters they have.
Okay.
So if they have multiple arbiters, I think minimum you've got to have somewhere between 18 and 24 tanks. So 1.5 to 2 groups. We're facing 3 arbiters. I think you got to have close to 2 groups, because microing the vessel is pretty damn hard. I seem to always put it in this weird spot with my army where it's like over top of the tanks, and then they get this double whammy stasis where they hit your vessel and they hit your tanks at the same time.
Right.
And then if they hit your tanks, you know, Dragoons deal a lot of damage. The threat is the Zealots, but the problem when you get mass stasis is not really the Zealots anymore. It's that you have pure Vulture versus Goons, and the Vultures flat out won't kill the Dragoons.
Right.
So you have to have a high tank count versus 2-3 arbiters. But in this game, you saw I had a lot of vultures, and that's because I knew his arbiter count was way low. When the arbiter count's low, you know that the zealot count is going to be higher.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you don't have to have a lot of tanks.
Uh-huh.
But when you don't build tanks, that means your max timing is faster. That means you're getting out in the map faster, and potentially your attack will be much stronger. Potentially.
Right. Okay, so it looks like he got the recall off on you. And again, it looks like you're just trying to kind of split the map. I'm taking the 6 o'clock because if you control this area like this, you know, kind of vertically, you can also defend your 4th base. And then I imagine from there is your next base that you want to take at the other 6 o'clock base?
Yeah, so I think you should take top, because even though you got to go a farther way to defend it, look how far he has to go to recall bottom.
Right.
Also, I think your main is more of a threat to recall than necessarily your bottom middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather, if I'm going to put turret somewhere, defend my most critical area, which is my main.
Yeah.
So I think 12 is better than 6, but 6 could be fine. You see his Stargates. If I build mass turrets there and build a tank, I'm going to kill his Stargates. So I don't hate either one, but I think I would prefer 12 on top.
Yeah.
And then also, when you have 12, you can push to top middle pretty easy.
Right. Okay, so it looks like you're pushing at 12, and you're probably gonna take another base there. And this is good, right? Because I think it's all about the positioning. I think it's even hard for Protoss to really get an angle, right? Because I think when you're attacking as a Terran, like, you generally want to minimize the number of like different angles a Protoss can hit you, right? So like here, this is kind of nice because, you know, sometimes they have units flowing through the bridge, and it's kind of like hard for them to get like a good surround. And she's trying to get an arbiter off. Can he even get there? Oh shoot!
Yeah, and you see, as soon as I kill the base, I'm instantly running to bottom middle. But we saw the arbiter, so now I'm running to my main.
Oh yeah.
I know where it's coming, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Is there's no mines. I got lucky that these tanks popped out, and we kind of just shut this down.
Right.
But this was a mistake for me to not get mines here.
Yeah.
But I'm also not really worried because I'm on 4 base and he's on 4 base.
Right.
And even though I haven't been mining 4 base for a long time, flat out Terran's 3-2 is just stronger than Protoss' ground. So as long as I don't die to these recalls,
Yeah,
I'm not really worried about the state of the game.
I see.
But
So,
as I say that, you look at the money. Missouri's got a lot of money, and I'm broke. So
right.
it was closer than I thought.
Right. In this map definitely plays out so much more differently than like Circuit Breakers, right? Because I feel like I think Mazur in a different game would probably be going for like a far base or probably set up some more gateways. So I feel like in general, the strategies here are a little bit different, at least in the late game, right? So it seems like you clean that up, and it's almost like from this point you can just kind of, I feel like you can kind of choke him out, right? Because he doesn't have a fifth base, right? He must be mined out. I mean, let's just look at the map actually.
Yeah, at this point, I know I have to just not throw,
Yeah.
and he will mine out. And then if I have 4 add-ons now, so my tank count's going to get astronomical. If we
Right.
ever have a fight at this point, you can be pretty certain that unless he stasises everything,
Yeah.
I'm going to trade extremely well.
Right.
So I'm not really worried here. I'm basically just making sure that my army's consolidated. Another thing with Benzene, my army running back from when I just killed top middle, it went through the middle down to bottom, or it was angling through the middle down to bottom right.
Yeah.
And but what happens here is if Protoss is already at your bottom middle and they see half of your army going through the lower platform and then half going through like towards my third base,
Yeah.
what happens is they just turn around and just they just flank on top of that smaller army and smash it. So you got to
Yeah.
be careful with your
Right.
pathing. You have to keep everything together. You cannot split up
Right.
stuff.
Right. No, absolutely. I totally agree with that because it's like Terran's one of those, it's like that once you hit critical mass, I mean, it's like they get absurdly strong. But once you start splitting your, army, like even if like your tanks and vultures are not together and stuff like that, then you lose a lot of really expensive units really fast. So I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. It looks like this giant push. I mean, this is probably going to be the end of a. Oh no, a huge stasis. Oh.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about. The stasis, that was one stasis, and it hit
Wow.
5 tanks and a Goliath. And he had 3 arbiters there. Luckily for me, I got an EMP off.
Right.
But in Terran versus Protoss, maybe the hardest thing to do is to get the EMPs off. I'm struggling to come up with hotkeys
Yeah.
to counter it. But it is mandatory that you have vessels to try
Right.
an EMP. And you really do want to get your vessels, like, not on top of your units, because that when Protoss sees a
Yeah.
vessel over top of a tank, it's like, thank you, God. I can get everything with this stasis. You got to have them
Right.
like where you see right now, where they're if Protoss wants to trade a stasis for your vessel, that's not
Yeah.
a terrible trade for you, because at least it's not hitting your tanks.
Right. Yeah, so that's always good to know. I mean, you don't want to have your vessels over your tanks right there. Okay, so GG. I think that was really good because I think just knowing that he didn't have that fifth base told you a lot, right? I think in terms of like even for like a newer player, trying to read where your opponent is, it can be a difficult task. But I think you sometimes like my advice as well is just kind of like think about, hey, like where is my opponent, and maybe like try to even open up a replay and say like, oh, like I wonder where, like as like a pop quiz or something like that. I wonder how many minerals my opponent has, or I wonder how much my supply my opponent has at different points in the late game, so that you can kind of make these little educated guesses and also devise a strategy there, right? Because if they're stuck on 4 bases like we saw on Benzene, like you don't have to be aggressive, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like as long as you can stop them from getting like a 5th or a 6th base, then you should just win by choking them out. And I think a lot of times people get a little too hasty about always attacking to win, when in reality you can win the late game just by choking them out.
Yeah, you as Terran, you are not really obligated to attack. The only reason Terran really attacks Protoss is at some point you can't let Protoss have 8 base.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do something about it. But to fight 4 or 5 base Protoss, that's not a big deal as long as you're getting your 4 base. So as long as you're keeping them in check, you don't necessarily have to end the game. You just go for, I'm flat out going to trade better than you, and then the longer it goes, it's better for me.
Right.
But but in general, just Terran versus Protoss, it's very difficult. And when I watch a lot of players, I think the main issue I see with them is the build orders have gotten way better than in the past. But when they
absolutely.
fight, I see vultures I also have this issue where you A2, A3, A4, A5A, and you like click like way deep in the middle of the map,
Yeah.
and then your vultures stream ahead. They run into dragoons. Even if they don't die, they're taking pot shots left and right.
Yeah.
And then when the fight happens, they're already weakened, and your whole build is revolving around this timing attack, but you're already softened up, and then they get steamrolled. And then because of, like you said, how Terran has to hit critical mass to be strong,
Yeah.
it's not like Terran can build 10 tanks out of 10 factories. They have to have 10 add-ons. Whereas
Right.
Protoss, if they have 12 gates, sure, they have to have the gas for this, but they can
Yeah.
build 12 dragoons immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it takes a long time to rebuild this tank count. So you have to keep everything close. You have to make sure you're not bleeding units. That's an issue I have.
Right.
Like I said, because I feel obligated to get on the map at 12:30. I can't let this guy get stasis. I can't let him get recall, and then I bleed some units, and then the fight goes terribly from me. Instead of fighting 4 or 5 base, 3 minutes later, I'm fighting 6 or 7 base, and then
Right.
it just is a nightmare from that point on.
No, for sure, yeah. So I think TVP can be a nightmare, but I think there's, as long as you're careful, you kind of cross all your T's, dot all your I's. It's definitely very doable. So next, we actually have another guest joining us, and I think in order to do that, you and I have to disconnect. But Gypsy's gonna join the chat. Well, not just the chat, the talk show, and he's also gonna give us some good experience here. So let me cut the chat with you, Nyoken, and then we'll try to set up the call with Gypsy. So hold up. All right, are we here?
Hello?
Hello? Where's Gypsy?
Hello?
Hello?
All right.
Hi.
All right.
Hey.
Damn, we have like the media crew here. All right, can everyone hear Gypsy and Nyoken?
Yeah, is my microphone okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. Hold on. All right. So the next segment that we have, so we just watched an example of a pretty standard 2-1 push that Nyoken had. So the next segment is to really just go into some viewer submitted replays. We have 2 of them here. Oh, it looks like Gypsy, you're a little bit loud. If you can turn down your mic a little bit, that would be great. But yeah, so I mean, Gypsy's obviously a very strong North American Terran. It seems like, I don't know, he's back in Starcraft now. I think he took a month or so of a break, but he's been, if you guys don't know him, he does stream kind of on and off, but he's also very strong. He used to be a Zerg player, but he actually switched to Terran a few months back, and actually is playing it pretty damn well. So lots of good insight from 2 Terran players instead of just 1. And if you guys say something wrong, you guys fight it out, because I don't play Terran, I don't know. So let me read the question really quick for our Terran player, Yellow Fox Bet, and we'll try to do what we can to help him. So Yellow Fox Bet is a 1450 Terran, right? And he asks, when and where should tanks siege and vultures lay their mines? Okay, good. In every attack or push I make, I feel like all my units are always clumped up for stasis. Are there any micro tricks to help spread these units out? Okay, so it sounds like this is more of a questions on just strategies for moving out and attacking. But let's just try to comment on different things that this Terran should do throughout the game. And I'm also going to take off vision of the Protoss. You guys are just both silent.
Hi. You want to go?
No, you take. Yeah, I'll try and
He'll
get
try.
in. Yeah,
That's right, man. He'll back me up.
I don't want to take the stardom away from the starring 2 guests or show or hosts.
Yeah.
Okay, so where should tanks and vultures be? I don't think it really matters. When they're mixed in, I don't think it matters. So I've thought about this, and it specifically comes up for me when I'm facing 2 base arbiter, because when you're facing 2 base arbiter, it's a lot different than fighting 3 base, because
Right.
they're gonna have 2, 3 arbiters, and then when you get stasis, you might have your entire tank army stasis. That's a legit
Right.
concern for you. But when there's only 1, I'm not really so worried about that. So I think if you can put a hotkey where there's some tanks mixed in with vultures where they're not. So normally I put all my tanks on 1 hotkey or 2 hotkeys, and then what
Right.
happens is they all get grouped up.
Yeah.
And that's not good because of what he just said, where they're all gonna get stasis. So I think if you have 1 hotkey with 12 on him, and then maybe another hotkey with some tanks mixed in with vultures, so they're not completely all together. So there
Yeah.
kind of is a mix. Because if
Right.
stasis hits vultures, that's not so bad for you, unless it hits, 10 vultures. That's
Tanks.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think like that is a good way to spread your units, is kind of mix in some of your army with a
Yeah.
mix of another units. But
Right.
when you do that, if you have everything mixed, it makes it hard to siege, because then you're gonna have to control click the
Yeah.
tanks to siege them all up. By having at least one hotkey with everything together, you can siege everything at once. So I think that could be a good alternative.
Right.
But as far as losing your army to mass stasis, see this I hope we can see in the replay if that's
Yeah.
the case here.
No, yeah,
like I
we'll
said,
probably see that
you
like
have,
as the game goes.
You have to hit the timings. If you're
Yeah.
not hitting the timings and they start banking stasis energy,
Yeah.
have multiple arbiters, that is a nightmare. And
Yeah.
I feel you there, because then you have to hit your EMP. If you don't hit your EMP, you are probably going to get smashed.
Yeah.
That's why it's very important to hit your timings, and that's why it's very important to read the build that you're scanning. That's why
Yeah.
the comm set is so important. If you're doing a build like what I did last game, where I'm on one add-on or two
Right.
add-ons for so long, where I only have 13 tanks
Yeah.
at the 13-minute mark,
Right.
and you're facing base arbiter, it is very likely you're going to face 3 arbiters, and they're going
Right.
to have stasis. So if you scan and you see it's 2 base arbiter with a lot of arbs, you don't have to necessarily push out at 13 minutes. You can
Yeah.
sit back, bank up to 24 tanks, and maybe go for a 14.5 timing.
Okay.
But at least when your army gets stasis partially, you know for a fact you're going to have a lot of tanks left over.
Right. No, yeah, I think
So-
that's good.
Yeah. but-
I think one thing though is we have to remember, like, 1450 is still not the toppest of ratings, right? And for sure, the Yellow Fox Bat is probably a very decent player, because 1450 is hard to get to.
Yeah.
But still, you have to remember, like, TVP late game micro is probably one of the hardest things to do in StarCraft as a whole.
Right. Yeah.
And I think a big part of taking the correct engagements late game against Protoss, it involves, first of all, a lot of scanning. So
Right.
as you're moving your maxed out army, which takes like 4 hotkeys, 5 hotkeys,
Uh-huh.
you have to also be scanning ahead so that you know, okay, this is where the Protoss army is. I have to start sieging. I have to start laying mines. And most
Right.
of the time, you don't even have time to do both, like putting mines down and sieging. It's
Right.
very, very technically hard to pull all this off.
Yeah.
So I would say you shouldn't be getting discouraged by
Yeah.
the fact that it doesn't always go well. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the hardest things to do in this game
Yeah.
is play at least at an like a beginner, like amateur level.
Yeah.
Late game TVP is insanely hard.
Yeah.
Insanely hard.
Can we
So
pause though? Because I feel like we're already at 10 minutes. I haven't even seen it.
Okay.
But
no,
I
yeah.
do want to point out what Gypsy said. I agree. It's very hard, because, like I said, I think my weakest point in TVP is I just start getting into frantic mode when I'm moving out,
Yeah.
and then I lose my army, or it goes worse than I thought. But I want to say that when you're moving out, you don't necessarily. Well, first off, don't lay mines in front of your army. That's a fact. And the reason you don't want to lay mines in front of your army is because when those zealots come charging in, you do not want to be dragging mines into your army. So don't
Okay.
lay it in front. What you want to do is lay it from the side, because if they come from an angle, then they'll run into it, and that could be pretty good. So definitely lay them on the side if you even have time. But to be honest, when you're fighting, you don't even necessarily have to lay mines.
Yeah.
It's more important to get your siege up. But when
Right.
there's nothing going on, we were talking about last game where I was just sitting in my base, that's a good time to just go out on the map and lay mines. But if you're going to miss macro and miss depots and stuff like that, I wouldn't worry about laying mines. I'd be more worried about hitting your build
Yeah.
and standing, like Gypsy said, figuring out what's going on, because laying these mines is going to be negligible, most likely, in the overall outcome of the
Right.
game.
Yeah.
yeah, especially not at the highest level. I would say like lowest level, like on the lower end, you want to just make sure that you're hitting your macro, you're hitting your builds as much as you can, and that you can actually move your entire army together. Because just moving your army cohesively is a challenge in and of itself.
Right.
And then scanning ahead for the Protoss army, like
Right.
while doing all of that, is again, I can't reiterate just how difficult all of this is. So you
Yeah.
shouldn't be getting discouraged.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you watch next time you watch a flash VOD, watch how slowly. Of course, he's got 400 APM. I know this, but watch how slowly and diligently he moves his army. He's like moving his army like an inch at a time, and then compare it to your own replay. I guarantee you're probably moving like all your vultures like halfway across the map on the mini map, and your tanks are way behind. But if you watch Flash, he consistently moves it. Because of that, he doesn't.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's good. Oh, Nyoken, is he... Are we losing Nyoken
Yeah, is
again?
that? Think so.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear
Hello?
you.
Oh my.
It's okay. You got the benched Nyoken here to back you up, Jaeyun.
All right, we got Gypsy instead of Nyoken. That's why we brought Gypsy on,
Yeah.
because
I knew he was gonna have technical issues today.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is all good advice. I mean, I think we'll see kind of like more in the battles as the replay goes on, but I don't know if you're watching the replay, and hold on, is Nyoken even still here?
I think he died. Hello?
I could kind of hear him.
Yeah, he's kind of here, but he's. I think we can wait though. He'll probably like reconnect.
Right. Okay, let's just
Never
remake.
mind.
Yeah, let's just remake the game. No, this happened
Okay.
last time too, so let's just remake the game. And then we'll kind of see some of the things that I was at least looking at while you guys were talking. But I feel like, a couple of things that I caught in that replay too is, and I kind of want to use that first game as an anchor, that Nyoken versus Missouri game. I think the trend that I'm seeing for a lot of the lower level players, and I think I've said this in every single episode, is that there's always lack of vision, right? I always get these questions like, hey, what do I do? Like, what's the right response? Well, that's why a lot of these builds, like in TVP, you would also agree, are so centric around getting an academy fast, right? So that we could, see what they're doing and respond appropriately. So I think having a long-term plan and also kind of like that vision is definitely key in every single matchup. But okay, do we have Nyoken back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, there he
Welcome
is.
back.
All right. Nyoken is back. Okay. So, yeah, let's kind of zoom past again here. Sorry for all the technical difficulties, everybody.
12 gas into expand. This is all pretty standard. This wall, though, is a little... I would need to see more than one game, because my initial reaction to this wall is, how do you kill the goon?
Okay. Well, it wasn't
I
one
agree,
fact expand,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but usually this kind of wall is really susceptible to just dragoons hitting it.
Yeah, I see.
It's kind of annoying to deal with.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like if the Dragoon comes in to pick off the tank, then runs back.
I
and
mean, in
stuff.
this case, Protoss went Nexus first, I'm pretty sure, and the Terran went factory expand, so it's normal that like the tanks got out on time. So in this
I
case,
see.
like the Protoss can't really abuse this wall, but usually like Dragoon's gonna be hitting it for a long time. But yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so, but look. We've got an eBay at 6 minutes, but where's the academy? This is old school style Terran versus Protoss, because this is something I would do. I get the eBay because I lose the DT, but because of this, we're in the dark.
Right.
Like, what is the follow-up plan here? We don't know if he's 2-base ARB.
Mhm.
We don't know if he just went triple expand. Does he have 4 Nexus at this point?
Yeah.
We don't know if we're getting all in. The comsat is so important. It's in this situation is very similar to Protoss and Protoss versus Zerg, where there's so many builds Zerg can do that you must scout, because there's no... Really, the only catch-all for Terran is to just go upgrade Terran. But if you're giving up so many bases, it's hard to come back even with that.
Yeah.
So it's mandatory that you get this comsat a little bit fast.
Right.
Yeah, the catch-all is going upgrade Terran, but even within the whole going upgrade Terran, there are different paths. There's ways you can do that upgrade style. Either it being you get fewer factories to get a faster third, or you delay your upgrades to get faster factories. There's a lot of different variations, even within the whole 2-1 sort of like sub meta or whatever.
Right.
And that's all that's all dependent upon what the Protoss is doing. But I think that's really a lot more relevant once you get into the sort of higher tier of level, level basically.
Right. So it looks like here, the Terran kind of, got a bit of a scout out, C4 gateways. We don't really know if there's a third base. So I feel like from here, if I just paused, right, like, and again, I'm not a Terran player, so you guys can kind of jump in and correct me, or, my thinking here is that I think this build is a little bit confused, right? Like in my mind, I'm always thinking from the beginning, or not the beginning, but like at least in the start of the mid game, am I going for a fast third or am I going for a fast push, right? Like if I go for a fast push, I can go 2 base, put up 4 or 5 factories. Maybe I'll go for like a one of those things, or I should put down that third command center as soon as possible. So would you guys kind of agree that this build that we're seeing here, doesn't have that first fast third factory, is not really going for a push, or it sort of is? I mean, like, what's your take on the build right here?
Yeah, I agree. We have 4 factories, but we're not attacking. And I know we're not attacking because we got the starport and we've got double armory.
Right.
So we're not attacking. We're not taking command center. If we take a command center, look at what Protoss has. He's taking a 4th base. We haven't even started our 3rd base. And then the 3rd base is a mineral only.
Right.
So we can build more vultures, but really the power of Terran is in the tank.
Right.
So I agree with that, and it all comes down to what Mihai said, is you got to know what's happening, but you can play a blind 6-fact or 5-fact if that was your goal, but here it doesn't seem like we have a goal. It's kind of in between, and you can't really be in between as Terran, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think, Gypsy?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with. I think Jaeyun, you have a really very straightforward way of thinking about it. You have to either commit to one or the other.
Yeah.
And again, like Nyoken said, it's a lot about scouting. But here, definitely, this build is like an in-between of, like, you want to expand, but you don't want to expand.
Right.
Like, this is a build that's looks like it's trying to take a 3rd base, but we're not taking a 3rd base as fast as we should.
So it looks like from the chat that Yellow Foxbot actually is saying this is a 5-factory build from like the CPL Discord. So I guess it was intended to be kind of an aggressive build.
I see. Yeah, so I don't really hate 5-fact or 6-fact builds. I think they're okay, especially if you're starting out. I think for sure 5-fact or 6-fact is good, because even just going upgrade Terran and doing 3 bases and stuff like that, it takes a lot of APM. So if we're a CPL player, I think 5-fact, 6-fact is good. It's strong as long as you're attacking pretty fast, whereas I think this is a little bit slow.
Yeah.
So I think here, if you're just going to go 5-fact or 6-fact, you just need to get a little faster, and then maybe not now. I think now might have been a little bit too late, but like a minute before would have been a good timing to go. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that being said, like, I think the Terran's playing pretty decently. It's just, you have to, like, these are, like, we're talking about very, like, much more sharp variations,
Right,
like,
yeah.
You don't have to be that precise, I feel like, but
Yeah.
still, really, like, you want to really think about it this way. If you want to take a quick 3rd, you shouldn't be getting more than 3 factories off 2 base. And if you want to attack, you should be going up to 5 or 6, and that's it.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree with that. So it looks like there's not. It's not that the Terran's playing poorly. I mean, 150, 160 supply is actually still pretty good. At this level, but it's more just about optimization, right? So it seems like the 5 factory. If you want to go 5 factories, then you go attack. But if you don't, and you're scared to expand, maybe wait up to like 3 factories, build up tanks, and then move out. So is that kind of the consensus here?
Yeah, but look at Foxbat. Despite having a 3rd so late, we're taking a 4th base. So this is nice play. It's similar to what I did versus Missouri, right? Where I was on 3 base, but then I took 4 and 5 base pretty fast to catch up. Like I said, now we're catching up at that point. The issue here is what I just see on the map now is we're getting recalled.
Right.
Is the Arbiter has just banked too much energy. We don't have turrets and everything set up.
Right, and so if you're in this turtle style, like, what's the timing that, like, you start putting down turrets? I mean, assuming they're not going for a super fast Arbiter, like, I would think, like, my intuition thinks that if you're attacking, maybe you can keep them busy enough to not make turrets, but if you're kind of in this 4-base turtle position, would you always make turrets at this point? I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think I mean, let's omit talking about any very early arbiter timings, like off
Yeah.
two base.
Yeah.
But I think a golden rule is like once you're trying to push out with your 2-1, which
Yeah.
usually that's like 14 minutes.
Right.
But once you want to push out, you have to make sure that all the potential recall positions are defended as you're pushing out. So you want to have
Right.
turrets before you push. You want to have it like mined and turreted before you push out. Because as Terran, you don't want to have to think about a potential recall
Yeah.
while you're attacking. That's
Right.
really the biggest thing.
Right.
So I would say like just make sure that by the time, whenever it is that you're attacking,
Yeah.
you have good recall defense wherever it's necessary, right?
Right. Okay. I think that's a good rule. I mean, I think we might be losing Nyoken again. Oh no.
I get it. Nyoken just he really doesn't want me here, you know. That's
Yeah.
that's what it really.
Right. But anyways, I mean, we can continue with the talk. I mean, I think that's just a good rule to like have that turret defense before you move out. I think especially, you know, when you hit that 14-minute mark and you haven't applied any pressure, like, you know, at any level, I think you definitely should just be getting a whole bunch of turrets either way, because it's not like, you know, when Terran is kind of sitting and waiting to max, like, you know, I feel like for the most part, you know, it's not, you know, like it's something that I'm not saying it doesn't take that much APM, but you're not really attacking, so you might as well just kind of make a whole bunch of turrets and then set up and then you start moving out. Because honestly, even with the 200 army, like you could still, you know, completely destroy a lot of Protoss just with a giant move out.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, Terran decimates Protoss in 200 engagements. I mean, omitting like really good Stacies, right? But the thing is, to be able to take those fights, you have to make sure you're not getting recalled. If you're getting recalled and the game turns into like a guerrilla style like battle, then Terran really starts to lose out, because they're not getting those straightforward engagements in which they really win on, right? That's the big thing.
Yeah, we see here. I mean, it's just, it seems like the recalls in general are just like kind of taking all of the, you know, positions, like making the tanks all fluttered. And remember, we heard Nyoken last game says you have to keep your army, you know, together when you're attacking, because if your tanks or vultures are kind of just like, you know, separate, then you lose so much so fast. And I feel like it also just kind of like screws up your like mental game when you're like all, you know, jumbled around the place. I mean, like you don't feel confident anymore, and it's really frustrating. Maybe you're like a Terran OCD kind of guy, and it gets really hard to set up again. So I think just really fortifying those defenses, like Gypsy said, is probably going to be key here. So it looks like we defended the recall, and from here, what would you do as the Terran from this point on? Would you start pushing out? Would you kind of push out slowly and take a fifth base? I mean, what's your call here?
I mean, I just think this matchup is really hard to play for lower level players.
Yeah.
But definitely when you win, like when you kill off a recall, the one thing you have to be thinking about is pushing onto the map and killing a Protoss base or two.
Okay.
Like punishing, because Protoss, like, we as a Terran player, you get this feeling like, oh, Protoss is going to be maxed at all times.
Yeah.
They have so much, like, they have an infinite amount of money. Like, you really feel like you're kind of an underdog, right? And you have to keep winning these fights. But the reality is, if you get a really good trade, especially on a recall, Protoss still takes some time to remax. And that's when they're really weak to like just Terran pushing out, taking a base or two, then going back and expanding themselves. And you really want to play this. I mean, Terran's like the most meticulous race in the game. You have to be very precise with your army. And it's really, against Protoss, it's really just the war of attrition. And you have to sort of play for a very long game. Always. You should always have that mentality, kind of. And so whenever you can get a small victory here, like pushing out, like exactly what Foxbat is doing here is exactly what he should be doing. He killed the recall, took his entire army, and pushed out onto the map. Now, as you get higher in level, there's more stuff that you want to do, like mine parts of the map that you don't want to have the Protoss counterattack you, like the paths that you want to sort of block from the Protoss, while also maybe putting up more turrets. There's more stuff as you get better at the game, but I think Foxbat is actually playing this really well. And again, that's the basic idea is you win a fight, try and go and kill some Protoss bases.
Right. And so, do we have Nyoken back?
Yeah, I'm back, but so I'm watching through the stream. I want to point out Foxbat army. This is pretty much the ideal army you want to have. A lot of tanks, not necessarily heavy vulture, and I like what he did here. You see he got stasis big time, but he kept reinforcing here. That's great. You need to keep doing that because if you bank up a lot of units and then, you know, on top of it you get stasis,
Yeah.
Protoss will just overrun your army. But Foxbat did a really good job reinforcing here.
Right.
And this is 1450 rating. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy how good players are even at ranks that people don't consider very high. Like,
Yeah.
this is really nicely played, and the supplies are really close.
Yeah.
What? Like, this is exactly.
I mean,
how
this
you
looks
should
like
play.
an actual PVT from both sides.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's really.
Yeah,
Right.
I think if I was to say what should we be doing also at this point, really the only thing I can see is take top middle.
Yeah.
Like, you're keeping Protoss busy, but everything else has been great so far. I saw he took massive stasises, but
Right.
it didn't matter because his tanks are so efficient combined with the vultures.
I think
Yeah.
the other one thing I really just want to quickly point out is you really want to get Goliaths out earlier.
Yeah.
And it's not just to clear arbiters out, but as you'll see, like as you progress in this matchup, Goliaths in your early pushes are really important because you want to constantly snipe observers. If the
Right.
Protoss doesn't have full vision of your army, now, you know, even if they don't have any arbiters, you want to have like maybe 2 or 3 Goliaths. Like,
Yeah.
you always want to have Goliaths with every one of your pushes, because
Right.
if you just leave the observers over your army for free every time, the
Yeah.
Protoss will 100% always know how to engage you. And
Yeah.
when you watch a replay, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you were to ever play sort of the Protoss side of this matchup, you would feel just how much easier it is to take engagements when you know what's going on the map. And for denying that extra vision.
Right. Yeah, so I feel like here, I think, you know, the idea of defending the recall, counterattacking, killing the bases, that was perfect. I think where we kind of slipped up, and I think this is totally okay. I mean, I think, like, you know, this is more of like, you know, as you guys said, like, as you start getting better, you have more APM to do things. I feel like we left too much of an opening for a counterattack, you know, especially as the Protoss wasn't, you know, trying to kill off the army. And so, like, yeah, setting those mines up and also taking a base, because I feel like if Yellow Foxback took a base, like, while he was pushing, I feel like he'd be crushing this Protoss, right? Because, I mean, like, now you're basically killing off the only other base here, but it looks like we're gonna be out of money, and it's gonna be at the end of the game.
Yeah, we just started out, so it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think we also overcommitted a little at the end when we took out that third base that's mined out.
Yeah.
We were talking about last game how I kind of thought I was in a good position going
Yeah.
to that platform, but then it was an overcommitment. So
Yeah.
that was another mistake. After you set up like 2 or 3 tanks to kill bottom right, I think we back off, go back into a more defensive posture because you know that Protoss is going to counterattack you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that was really the only main issue. But as far as the overall game, I thought it was pretty good. It looked like a real game.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, it was impressive.
Right.
3-3. Everything was. The army comp was great. There wasn't
Yeah.
anything like mind-blowingly off.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was pretty well played too. I mean, I think it's just like the small things that you slowly start to like clean up as you improve the game. Just like the expanding, defending the counterattack. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. And I think I would also kind of recommend to Yellow Foxbat just continue to optimize those builds. Like, you know, if you want to, you know, go for 5 factories, I think you have to be aggressive with that. You don't want to go 5 factory and then you know, expand, because if you're just going to expand, then it's better to just do it off of like, say, 3 factories, right?
I just want to point out, like, again, just how incredibly difficult late game TVP is.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
like, it really is, because a part of it also is you really have to hit those 2-1 timings. Like, the more space you give the Protoss,
Yeah.
the easier it is for them to play the matchup out, and especially at lower levels, because it just takes, like, you know, like, mines are so important in the matchup, and that takes a lot of APM.
Yeah.
Like, just again, like, taking the fights, just understanding the economy, the late game economy. It's so different from most other matchups
Right.
that I really I think that was well played, but again, I think that's also just the fact that I just think PvT late game is much easier than TvP late game for the lower
yeah.
levels.
No, I agree.
And I just really, really want to emphasize that you shouldn't be getting discouraged. And if you are having continuous issues with that matchup, playing that kind of late game style, you can totally, I think it's a totally viable thing to just two base, just go 5-6 factory every single game,
Yeah.
and get really good at that. And
Yeah.
once it stops working and you understand why it stops working, you can move on to something else. And by then you'll have better fundamentals.
No, yeah, I agree.
But
Yeah.
that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, so I think I think it really depends on like the the players as well, just because some people are really good at kind of playing defensive, but I understand it can be frustrating at a lower level, like building up to max, and then you end up just dying before you do anything. So if you want to get some more action, practice your micro, your positioning, and all that stuff, maybe it is worth kind of going for like a 5-6 factory kind of timing push early, but. Yeah, I mean, definitely good insights. We're going to start replay number 2, and this is the last viewer-submitted replay before we go on to talk about anything and everything. So this one is from Sleepy Terran. He has a 1391 Terran, and this might be a little bit of a faster replay, but he asks, how to properly scout and defend in micro against DTs, and should I prioritize Academy or eBay? What are the benefits and flaws of each? I didn't mean to BM by not surrendering earlier. I just want to experiment with some micro. Okay, so I mean, I think we let's turn off vision for the Protoss here, and I think in general, we did talk a little bit about kind of the differences between eBay and Academy, but let's also just kind of walk through this replay. Some of the things, maybe from like a vision perspective, maybe we'll pause the game when the SCV gets the scout, and reading the builds and allowing this viewer to kind of get into your guys' minds in terms of like what to think and how to counter. So, yeah, let's just kind of answer the question as the game goes on, but yeah, let's see how to scout and respond and what to do against DTs.
Okay, so I can tell you what I scout for. I talked about it earlier, is I like to go for a secondary scout at around 420 or 410. But if you start the eBay at around 420, it's going to be like 5 seconds too slow.
Yeah.
For the DT.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to go in at 410 or ish, and if you don't see a Nexus, just build an eBay. Or if you're just unsure in general, just build the eBay at around 4 minutes, not really much later than that, and then just build a turret.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose the game because you spent 200 minerals on this turret in eBay. Like that's flat out not going to happen. So I would probably recommend, if you're having problems versus DT. Is it me again? Oh, I thought.
No, it's paused.
Oh.
No.
I would say just blind turret every single game, eBay at 405, and put a turret up. That can be the solution until you get better, until you start recognizing like, something's weird here because he should have a Dragoon, or something's weird here like he moved his unit in a weird way, or range isn't in, or something like that. I think blind turret would be nice. And then a later Academy. In my videos, I talk about you should go for like a 4-minute-ish Academy, but delaying the Academy to 5 or 5:30 is still okay. So that would be my recommendation. Issue.
Yeah. So, but here it looks like this wasn't an issue of not scouting. So it looks like the SCV just walked right in his base. I mean, I don't even know what the hell this Protoss build is. Like, I didn't even know you could. I'm sorry.
This is my build. This is the blind DT. Just straight DT. I don't care if they see it because I know Terran can't stop it.
Okay, yeah. So from right here, he literally gets a Citadel almost done at 3:30. I mean, I don't even know you can get it this fast. So what do you do here? Obviously, you put in eBay. Are you gonna expand? Like what are you gonna do here? Are you gonna put a bunker out there? Like how would you respond to this?
You definitely get an eBay. I think to go back to the conversation at least basically the points Nyoken was bringing up. Yeah. I think a good rule of thumb is you always want an academy at some point because like previously we were talking about scouting is so important. Scans are always going to be important in this matchup. You really want to have your academy building sometime after you took your third or your natural.
Right.
But it's always the question of when do you want to get the eBay. Now the
Right.
eBay, sometimes you can even delay it past your, after building your third command center. So it's not the academy timing that really varies that much,
Yeah.
but it's the eBay. And usually the eBay, you get turrets because you want to defend against aggressive either DTs or Reavers. So as
Right.
soon as you know that the Protoss is getting DTs or Reavers, you 100% need an eBay. Now,
Okay.
in this particular instance, all you have to do is you can take your command center at the same time as you normally take it, but you
Right.
just plop down your eBay right after, as soon as you can, and
Yeah.
put a bunker down, put a turret down, and sometimes as you play this matchup more, you'll see like some Protosses like to suicide their whole units to like kill your one turret at the front.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem, but that's just something you have to learn to deal with, either
Right.
through microing your SCVs better, like pulling them right away, or maybe sometimes you'll just get 2 turrets at your front or something like that.
Right.
But I really think it's just a question of varying, like thinking of it as my academy should kind of always be coming at the same time, because
Right.
I need a scan either to scout, or eventually if they go some like delayed DTs, like you'll need it to push out. There's a bunch of stuff, but you always
Yeah.
want your scan.
Right.
But the eBay is something that you can delay, and in case of Protoss not playing aggressively, basically is what it is.
Right. Yeah. So I think here. Oh man, we see the. Still, I think from here. I mean, we can just pause. We'll probably just like we don't have to watch the whole replay. But I think what I would do, like for once you see that Citadel, I mean, like this is like just reading the build. Like this is obviously either DT or this guy's doing some gag like speed zealot, bum rush, right? So you kind of have to think to yourself, like, what can I do that catches, what is the catch-all, aka, oh, it looks like Nyoken's dropping, but anyways, I'll keep talking. But what is the catch-all strategy that I can go for or counter, such that regardless of what he does, I'm gonna come out on top, right? So whether he goes for Dark Templar, some Speed Zealot shenanigans, or even if he expands from this point, right? Like he's so far behind if he tries to play a macro game from here. So you're ahead if you don't die, right? Number one. Number two, if he goes Dark Templars, obviously you want to get that eBay right ASAP. And to block like the potential Speed Zealot bum rush that he might do, I mean, I guess that's a possibility. I would definitely build a bunker at the front. I'd make the eBay as part of your wall. I'd lift off my barracks and put the eBay and the barracks right next to each other. Maybe even like throw down a supply depot if you really need it. And just turtle like crazy and sit there on 2 bases until you confirm what they're doing with that academy, right? Like, I feel like, once you see that Citadel, you immediately get the eBay, immediately put up a bunker at the natural, immediately just wall everything up. And I feel like in all cases, you will be ahead, right? Would you agree with that, Gypsy?
I mean, yes, I obviously agree with everything that you said, but I think also the one thing we have to take from this replay is if you see the Protoss going for DTs or whatever it is that the Protoss is going to do with that Citadel,
Yeah.
the one thing you're not doing is pushing out on the map like this.
Yeah.
The one thing you're doing is making sure that you're getting turrets at the front of your base. Now, there's other things you could do, like, okay, you can maybe try and get vultures out before the DTs get there and put mines down,
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But, okay, keeping it simple, don't push out. What's
Yeah.
this push doing? The DTs are coming. You don't have detection, right? Like, you
Right.
see the Citadel. Now, I have to mention, maybe Sleepy Terran, he's just not aware of the standard build orders, right? Like,
Right.
we kind of like, we just assume, for us it's easy because we've played this game for like years, right?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
we see these buildings, we know exactly what they mean, we know what the order of the buildings, what it means, what they can possibly have.
Yeah.
But it might be the case that you see a Citadel and you're just not sure that that's going to always be DTs. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not. And I think that's just something that you have to learn either with experience or through looking for through resources such as
Yeah.
obviously Jaeyun's talk show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's not a point we can ignore. Like, maybe Sleepy Terran just doesn't know that these might be DTs. But learn from us one thing: if you scout a Citadel, 100% stay in your base, and get some turrets.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think Sleepy Terran also said here that you know, he just staying in the game just to like practice microing against this. So do you have any general tips? I mean, not obviously right now. I mean, we're dead, right? But in general, let's say you have a DT in your base. You know, your scanner's coming up, or you know, you're trying to get your turret out. Like, any general tips or tricks that you would do against the DT, and you know, I don't know, maybe ways to like even stay calm or whatever like that. I mean, sometimes you're just dead, but let's say like you're close to dying, but you're not dead.
I mean, you can always try and like lay mines to
Yeah.
try and kill the DTs. That's the big thing
Yeah.
when you don't have detection. Sometimes you can get lucky. Now, it doesn't always happen because maybe the Protoss is paying attention and he'll kill your mines, whatever.
Yeah.
The first thing is put down mines. The second thing is you have to also realize that DTs don't just go after your workers,
Yeah.
but they can definitely go and kill your tanks, and
Yeah.
that's a pretty big thing. So try to be a bit more conservative with your units. Also, don't just like, because even if the DTs don't kill your workers or they're killing your tanks, they're doing their job.
Right. Yeah.
So mostly those two things, and just try and put up as many turrets as you can.
Yeah.
Especially in a frantic situation, trying to get your scanners up and put down turrets at the same time, and hopefully they just don't have enough, either the APM or enough DTs to deal with all of them, and at some point you'll get one of them up, and hopefully you can defend that way.
Yeah.
But for the most part, versus DTs, the real counter, quote unquote, is to just be prepared for them.
Right, absolutely. And I think, you know, yeah, at this point it's over, but I think in general, one thing to also know is that if your opponent went for a really fast DT, I mean, let's just look at their base. I mean, okay, well, this guy, okay, I guess he's, you know, a mess. He has 3 bases, but, you know, a lot of times, you know, Protoss don't always know how to follow up from it. So, like, investing in a whole bunch of DTs actually can be very, very expensive, to be very honest with you. And so, if you don't, yeah, if you don't like just because you lost a few units and like a few SCVs defending the DT, I wouldn't always assume that you're necessarily behind, right? Because they need to do like a substantial amount of damage for those that DT tech to have actually been worth it. So I think one thing to maybe even keep calm is that like, okay, I have like, you know, a few SCVs and a tank to lose before I start going downhill, right? Because if I can defend this DT push, like even if you just put SCVs on the ramp to block the DT from coming in, get a turret like on, you know, on top of the ramp, you lose a few SCVs, that's fine, because like remember, they're not expanding, or like, you know, their expansion is going to be late. So I think just knowing that you can, you know, come back into the game as long as you survive helps to kind of keep you calm. But if you panic and, you know, all hell breaks loose, then yeah, you just kind of die. But
Yeah, which happens often in Terran versus Protoss.
yeah, which, yeah, sometimes you just die, and that's unfortunate. But all right, so we are at 5:30 at least in PDT, so we've got a few more minutes. I mean, sorry, 30 more minutes here. So I'm actually gonna transition over to the talk show component of this. Well, I guess it is a talk show, but we're gonna try to hook up the video and change the overlay, and we'll talk about a few different topics here. But hold on, it seems like it's taking some time. Okay, I see Gypsy. Nyoken, are you connected on video?
You don't see me?
I don't see you, and hold on, guys. All right, let me change the overlay first. And by the way, guys, if you guys have questions, now would be a good time to ask.
The one thing I want to mention really quickly is, again, like, deal with the problems that you have one step at a time, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're dying to DTs. Make sure you fix not dying to DTs before trying to understand the whole follow-up economics of it. Like,
Right.
just what is Protoss losing out on? Well, none of that matters if you're still dying to DTs, right?
Right.
So again, when you're learning this game, just you have to go it incrementally, right? And that's really it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the videos. I'm trying to like, how do I get rid of myself? 'Cause I'm trying to like, does anyone know how to do this? I feel like, how do I get my name showing up so that I can like get rid of my side of the video? Hold on.
Yeah, we're almost speaking English.
I see Nyoken. I'm just trying to hold on. Damn, I don't even know how to use this thing. Sorry guys for the technical issues, but where is the maximize screen option? Okay, hold up. That's why I need to like hire, you know, somebody to go do this for me, you know. I'm not quite there on like Artosis and you know, in controls level, you know.
Yeah, you're ghetto, dude. Your budget.
Dude.
Budget Artosis.
Damn it, man. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to maximize the screen view such that it shows up okay on the
Let's
chat.
ask Mihai something. So Mihai,
Okay.
you switched from Zerg to Terran, but you upped your skill pretty damn fast. So how were you able to do that? You got some secret coach? What's the tip?
I'll tell you what the tip is.
What's the tip?
The tip is I suck still, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So there is
I saw
nothing.
You hit S rank yesterday. You got that yellow zealot.
Yeah,
Something Artosis can't.
it's an
do, so-
Archon.
It's an Archon. Even better. So there must
Right.
be something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for Dan, your mic's a bit low, so turn it up a bit. But the reason I got an Artosis didn't is because I had Dignity and I started queuing on non-Korea. So yeah.
All
I
right.
bet Artosis would have been S 10 years ago on NA.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I don't know how to figure this thing out, man. I'm really stupid with this freaking like Discord. Like I don't even know. I'm gonna send like a complaint. What the heck? Why are we focused in now? Okay. Anyways, we'll just continue with the show. Again, we have Gypsy and Nyoken here. So we went over some replays. We talked a lot about TVP. We talked a lot about DTs. I mean, this is like super ghetto, but it's all right. We've got you on voice. But anyways, let's also just talk about TVP meta, right? I mean, I feel like in general, in the past, it was kind of more. I think we saw so many more of these kind of 6 factory 2 base builds, right? But it's almost like today, those builds are more seen as like all-in-ish. And so, I don't know, how has that kind of evolved over time? And is a 6 factory build all-in, or is it still kind of viable? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but what's your guys' take on the meta, and why are people doing that these days?
Yeah, so if we go back to the old days, it was 1 base 2 fact. Then there was variations on that. Are you gonna go mass tank? You can go vulture. There was, you know, Joyo push, which is 3 tank, a few vultures.
Mhm.
That was common. And then once we got to the more, I guess, more expand era, like I Love
Yeah.
OOV, we started seeing 6 fact, but that's still kind of all in. And
Right.
then that kind of evolved into 3 base, more like 9 to 10 fact, but still we're not even considering upgrades. This is when the era where people thought carriers are unkillable just
Right.
because of how weak the Goliaths were.
Mhm.
So that's what it was back then. And for me, timing attacks aren't really, I don't really like them. I'm more, I feel like Terran, your army is too strong when it hits critical mass for
Yeah.
you to be going for these timings. I feel like if you're doing the timings, you're literally only doing it just to kind of balance out that, hey, I can do something other than timing. I don't want you to triple expand off of 1 Dragoon. That
Yeah.
would be my only really reason to mix it in.
Yeah.
But as my main build, I wouldn't do it. There are times I use it, like, for example, in the DT game that we just saw. Let's say we stop the DT, right? We saw 3 gates. So this guy's highly committed to a lot of early game
Yeah.
units, which hurts your econ. So in this specific game, I would like 5 or 6 fact, because if he
Mhm.
tries to recover by double expanding, you're going to hit a timing where he doesn't have a lot. But in
Right.
just straight up games, 2-1 is just the way to play.
Yeah.
Because there's breakpoints versus carriers. You massacre carriers when they go
Right.
2 base. You hit a timing with max before arbiters start stacking up.
Yeah.
You're so strong. That's current meta. Obviously, different variations to get there, whether you're going 12 gas or you're going gasless or you're going 1 fact, 1 starport
Mhm.
with an expand to get there. So the timings are different. But yeah, current meta is upgrade Terran and I don't see that going away, really. I don't
Yeah.
ever see a point where, oh, we're not going to upgrade anymore. We're just going to hit time
Yeah.
to kill Protoss. Now, TT1 is here. He may have something to say about that. But I think that's just the optimal way to play these days.
Okay. All right. What do you think about Gypsy?
Well, I mean, I kind of just agree with everything Nyoken said. I'm not gonna go down another like rundown of like the history of TVP, but for
Right.
sure, like once Flash figured out the upgrade timing, like in that whatever that OSL was like 2008 or whatever against
Yeah.
Stork.
Right.
That was really sort of the point. I think probably people realized like Terran can play this style, and then they refined it, and like we just realized that late game Terran is kind of insane,
Yeah.
especially once those upgrades start kicking in.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I still think there's still crazy variations. Like I don't think, for example, like Flash just that whole like Goliath tank sort of opening style.
Yeah.
That's super recent.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of just a result also of like Protoss figuring out like, well, look, we can do these sort of shuttle timings to
Yeah.
like abuse these upgrade style
Right.
Terrans.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be like very specific variations to the overall upgrade style.
Yeah.
But as Nyoken said, I think obviously like if you're trying to play Terran, like the most standard way to play it is you have to be getting some kind of upgrades,
Right.
and that's going to be like sort of the like it's what gates the play style, right? Like
Yeah.
these are your timings, like +1 or +2.
Yeah.
Then you have variations on that too. I mean, you can go +1, like some sort of +1 push, or some sort of like +2, like just 2-0 or 2-1.
Yeah.
There's different ways. Like I can skip getting a second armory
Yeah.
so that I can get a couple more factories or something
Right.
like that to get a stronger push.
Right.
Anyway, there's huge variations within,
Right.
but the main meta there, like in terms of just you need your upgrades as Terran, because that's the only way Terran scales into late game.
Yeah.
Is for sure here to stay.
No.
But again,
Yeah.
like even Protoss, like they have like they can experiment with new stuff, like different carrier builds. Like carriers are kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've noticed, like carriers with dragoons underneath, and like there's definitely still huge variation.
Yeah.
I feel like, but you definitely need your upgrades as Terran for sure.
Yeah, and I think in general, like, I think there's so much more creativity in the current meta. Like, in the past year, I feel like there's so many things going on, like, with the Protoss changing things up. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's almost like the Terran can just keep doing this 2-1 push, and every Protoss is going to be scared once it comes out of it, if it's like, untouched, right? So I feel like the Protoss, like the pressure's on the Protoss to do something about that before that happens, right? Like, do you feel that way? Like, I feel like, these Protoss, now they go for like this expansion, then they go for like a later Reaver, then like the Reaver kind of does a little bit of harass damage to try to slow down the third base. Now you got Protoss going 3 speed shuttles and all this crap, like, or I don't know, super fast recalls or super fast, I don't know, carriers, something like that. So I feel like the pressure is always on Protoss. So I think from a Terran perspective, it's like the Terran's got something good, like you guys are saying. That 2-1 push, that's a good, well-oiled machine. It's a good build. It's up to the Protoss to stop you, right? And I think a lot of the best Terrans know how to, when I see Flash, like, and I wouldn't recommend like a lower player doing this, but like, he knows exactly when to attack as a Terran. I mean, it's remarkable. Like, he just unsieges and he just goes. Like, 'cause it's like he has map hack. But I think that takes an incredible amount of experience. I think a lot of even top pro Terrans can't even do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know about. See, I'm Terran, so I'm going to say that I don't know if it's pressures on Protoss, but Protoss definitely feels pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know if they necessarily have to hurt the army.
Yeah.
I don't know if they necessarily have to feel pressure to hurt the army. They could. An alternative would be to take a lot of bases, right?
Right.
Where even though you haven't hurt the army, you have 20 or 25 gateways.
Yeah.
And then even if the fight goes well for Terran, if you got macro like best array,
Yeah.
you're like instant remax, right?
Right.
And they just rally units so fast that
Right.
sometimes that's an alternative.
Yeah.
I do agree, sort of, that
Yeah.
the Protoss has to do something, but I also don't. Terran is also feels obligated to do something because if you're on, okay, well, let's be honest here. 4-base Terran is ridiculously strong,
Right.
but you do feel obligated to do something when it's circuit breaker and Protoss has at least their 4-base and they're
Yeah.
taking their 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
So if a fight goes poorly for you, then you're feeling the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Your first attack, let's say, if you watch Flash games, his army somehow doesn't go down below 170. Like every time I watch, and my mind's blown.
Yeah.
But in my games, my supply goes down to 130, and then my
Mhm.
next fight happens, and they're on 6-base with 30 gates.
Yeah.
And then Terran's feeling the pressure. So I think I can kind of agree that Protoss
Yeah.
feels the pressure on the first attack, but then
Right.
depending on that attack, it kind of it can you can definitely feel the pressure as Terran if it's the map like Circuit Breaker where
Yeah.
they've taken both of the mains, because then it's
Yeah.
like, well, you kill one, but they already have the other one.
Right. But don't you think, I mean, I feel like maybe it's like a pro level, do you think, and maybe this is a question for you guys, do you think like a maxed out Terran army versus a maxed out Protoss army at, 13 or whatever minutes, right? Do you think like, to me, and maybe I'm just, this is just my perception, but I feel like if the Terran executes perfectly, not perfectly, but if the Terran executes really well, it's almost near impossible for the Protoss to break the push. Do you agree with that statement or no? I mean, like, I feel like the Protoss has to figure out ways to break the Terran or kind of capitalize on a mistake or capitalize on the Terran being out of position or clumping up all their tanks or something like that. But I don't know, am I biased against this, or do you guys think the onus is on Protoss to find a weakness, whereas the Terran can kind of just roll out as long as they're kind of safe and set up perfectly? Then it's harder for the Protoss to break you. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're kind of right in that. I think if Terran plays like, okay, there's a couple of objections to this though.
Yeah.
First of all, I think like there's again, we've touched on this previously, but it's very build dependent.
Yeah.
Like Protoss and both Terran can really abuse one another if they have the correct builds. Like, let's say I'm opening with like a really fast army as Terran, but the Protoss kind of knows I'm gonna default do that tank Goliath thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just go take 3 base off like 1 Dragoon or something like that, and there's not much the Protoss or the Terran can do about it. And then their 4th base is coming, their 5th base is coming, and my 3rd base is barely building.
Yeah.
And going into late game from that position is really hard as Terran.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I do think there's this this underlying premise actually that like late game Terran, if played perfectly, will win the matchup. Like if you get into like a split map situation, like ideally, like in a perfect scenario, like the Terran will always win. But that's so hard to pull off.
Yeah. Of course.
When you're playing the TVP matchup and you're playing Terran and you're like, okay, at this point I can't win with a push. The only way I can win is splitting the map.
Right.
It's such a hard thing to do. Mentally, it's like, okay, damn, like I have to play really well in the split map situation because it only takes like one mess up from the Terran, one wrong scan or something like that, or one arbiter gets in. And suddenly the game starts crumbling. I think it's something similar that we saw in TVZ late game.
Yeah.
Where I hope my mic's okay, by the way.
It's okay.
I don't know
okay.
if it's okay.
Yeah.
In the TVZ late game mech switch, where if Terran splits the map, they'll win eventually, but it's really hard to do that. And I think that always is underlying TVP as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's so many other factors. Again, coming back down to like the builds.
Right.
Like a Protoss can do like a 12 Nexus and get like maxed in like 11 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
And if you're like on a 4-player map and you're Terran and you're like one gas expanding or something and you scout them last and you like explode on your high ground, so you have to float the command. You're like on a, you're on the back foot, right?
Yeah.
Whereas there's also that one ASL game where I don't know who it was. I think it was Last versus Best, and Last just 14 CC'd against Best
Yeah.
and just rolled him over, like not even funny,
Yeah.
ahead in supply the whole game.
Right. Yeah.
So it really is like kind of just, I think, very build dependent also.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely. Nyoken, thoughts?
I agree that if Terran plays perfect, I don't see how Protoss can win, even if they have all the money.
Yeah.
Like, it's just Terran's so cost efficient.
Right.
I do agree that Protoss really has to, I guess, create an opening if they're going to fight the Terran army, like
Yeah.
draw it out of position, or what I like, this doesn't happen to me often, but when they use hallucination,
Right.
and then whether they even recall with it or not, if you force like an EMP out, or you force the units out of position and then you jump on the army, stuff like that,
Yeah.
you can smash the Terran armies pretty fast.
Right.
I agree with what Gypsy said about split map. Once it starts going split map, then you thought it was hard to stop Zerg with,
Yeah.
like, you at least can see overlords coming and they're slow. Whereas arbiters, it's just like, oh hey, I'm here and here comes 80 units. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that. So
Right.
a split map is very difficult. And then we haven't even talked about carriers. Like,
Yeah.
we're just assuming that Protoss
Yeah,
is
yeah,
opening
yeah, yeah.
arbiter.
Yeah, carriers are nuts.
Yeah.
If the carrier player is Snow or somebody,
Right.
the carrier will not die. That's just
Mhm.
like a fact. It's like, if Snow is in the game, then carrier is not gonna die.
Right.
But it depends who's controlling it. The DPS of the carrier is nuts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Terran versus Protoss, I think. But you're saying, like, in a perfect scenario, does Protoss win? I don't think Protoss wins, because if it's a perfect scenario and Protoss mech switch or carrier switches, then somehow Terran's gonna have Goliath plus lockdown and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of like talk in general, and maybe we can save this for another time because I want to move on to the next topic. But there is a lot of talk, like, if you had two, like supercomputers playing perfectly, which which race would win? And some people argue Zerg because you have so many different units, you can control them. But
Yeah, for sure it's Zerg. For sure it's Zerg.
Really, I actually
It's
maybe is it though? Okay, maybe we should pivot and talk about this. Like, a part of me thinks that I understand the argument for Zerg, but I feel like because Terran has the best like defensive capabilities, and if they just kind of slow push and really defensively and perfectly across the map, I don't know. It almost feels like to me that it's hard for Zerg to even do much.
Imagine your
Okay,
Defiler has 100% energy the whole time, and like just
Okay,
consumes
fine.
over and over,
Right.
and that's it. Can we move on?
Okay, fine. And then you have like mutas kind of like flying around.
Well,
like
I can hear the argument for every race. Like
Sure.
what Gypsy said, you have infinite dark swarm, you have plague,
yeah.
which
Yeah, but the thing is, consume means it's always there. Like, you don't have to recharge.
Plague, I get that. I get that. But you can also have the argument with Terran because they have the unkillable army. They have mass tanks. Doesn't matter how many dark swarms you have. At some point, you would have to push into a tank, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're gonna have queens. So there's that argument. But you have irradiate, right? If you have perfect irradiate, then your vessels never die.
Yeah,
Right.
but can Terran deal with 3 stacks of mutas perfectly micro?
But that's the thing. Like, I think people talk about the perfect muta micro, but then if you assume a perfect marine medic defense, right? Like, then I don't.
Okay, wait. Can I just put the one here? The one common thing is that no one's arguing for Protoss.
That's what I was about to say, but I was just gonna say that. But see, nobody's even bringing up Protoss.
Okay, fine.
But
What's Protoss?
For a long time, people thought Protoss late game army is the strongest, and I think if you can get all the spells, you can argue even Protoss is the best. Think of all the spells they have.
Yeah,
got
they have all these
Storm,
spells. Yeah.
They got stasis. Imagine you're playing Protoss perfectly, and you stagger stasis, right? So you stasis a group, and then you wait like 5 seconds, you stasis as a group, and you wait 5 seconds, you stasis as a group. Then when the first group comes out of stasis, you smash it. Second
Yeah.
group comes out of stasis, you smash it. Then you have
Right.
Maelstrom, right? Then you have mind control. We haven't even considered mind control. What about if you're Zerg, but you're
Yeah, you
facing
mind control
Protoss
the-
plus Zerg? Well,
Right.
then what? Now we have permanent Dark Swarm, permanent plague. Also, we didn't even consider mind control.
Mind
So why-
control.
Then we have carriers that can't be killed, almost.
Yeah.
We have Reavers that can sit behind cannons. Keep in mind, cannons can hit air and ground. That's mind-blowing, you know? So
Whoa.
well, I like how we didn't even consider Protoss, but their late game spells are amazing.
Yeah.
So you can argue every single race. And personally, if we're going to start doing that, I think Protoss might be the best, because if you mind control something, how do you ever win from that?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, this is all crazy, like, theoretical stuff, but I mean, it's always good to talk about. I mean, I feel like the, you know, in many ways, like, you know, because we're not perfect, I feel like, you know, there's the great thing about StarCraft is that you can exploit so many mistakes that even the top pro gamers make all the time. I mean, you can argue maybe like Flash is someone that, like, you know, makes some of the least mistakes, especially as Terran. His defensive mechanisms, like his macro, everything is just really good, but in general, either way, I mean, like, you know, all of the races can be very strong if you know, a computer can literally control every single unit perfectly. But
I mean, the computer thing is like, it's kind of weird because
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
we might
agree.
like. I think the game's pretty high level as it is. The
Yeah.
only thing computers would do better is just do inhuman stuff, like micro single units perfectly,
Yeah,
succinctly.
right.
And
Yeah.
maybe all that would be is like some abusive stuff coming out of it.
Yeah.
We might not even get to late game in some
Yeah,
matchups. So,
yeah,
you know.
I agree.
But we can't know that because, you know, we're just humans, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So moving on to the next topic. And I don't know if how, you know, how much you guys follow ASL, but there is the ASL 7 round of 24 groups that are set. And it is a little bit sad that we do have some people dropping out. I believe Flash dropped out, Shuttle dropped out, Jaeyun dropped out. Is there anyone else that dropped out that's like a big name, or is those the main three? Or do either of you guys
C
not know
dropped
at all?
out.
C?
C dropped
Okay. Is he going to the army?
He's going to the army.
Okay, C. Who else?
Someone else that was a pretty big name. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah. So I guess it is, I don't know, it's kind of sad for me, but at the same time, I think it's also very, I don't know, exciting, because then you have like these new pipeline talent. Like, I've seen a couple of these guys in the ASL 7 pop out. In KSL, like, one person that I was a little bit surprised by was Modesty. I don't know if you guys ever watched Modesty versus Last in KSL, but his ZVT was actually really strong. I was also very surprised by, what's his face? Oh, he's not even here. Who's that Protoss guy that we watched the other day, Nyoken? What's his face? Bermuda or Jaeyun? He was also doing really well against Larva, but I guess he didn't qualify for ASL. But I mean, one guy that kind of pops out is Nada. Like, dude, he's back. He's playing against Larva. I think he's gonna get completely smashed. But like, have any of you guys seen Nada play recently? Like, is this guy actually in shape?
Haven't seen him play, but I did watch his stream like a few months ago. I don't know his exact skill, but
Yeah.
I know he was playing PUBG a lot. So I will say it was marginal. But I mean, obviously he's very good now to qualify.
Yeah.
But I agree that he's probably gonna get smashed. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if we eliminate Flash from the planet, who's
Yeah.
the best StarCraft player from all time? Don't even tell me Jaeyun or Bisu. It's not. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Oh,
That
you
he was
mean like Legacy?
No, you're
No,
crazy. It's Jaedong. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh shit. Okay.
No. And then there's an interview with Flash where he talked about how he used to show Nada builds,
Yeah.
and like even after only showing the build to Nada for like a couple games, he
Yeah.
felt like Nada was better than he was. So this guy is amazing, and he's gone through all the eras. If you think about when Nada started, I remember playing on Game Eye and a server called Game Bugs, and people talking about Nada. So this is in 2001. He dominated back then. He dominated in the Boxer,
Right.
ILOV era.
Yeah.
Then he came back, like in the July,
Chalizerg.
the July area. I think really he was only not present in the very end, which was like, Flash and Fantasy, but he was great through all the eras. And now, I mean, this is proof. This is a guy that like he's played so much, and he's now back, and now he qualified. But I can't see him beating players like Larva because the skill is so high. Larva is amazing, but if he made it, it would be amazing. I wouldn't. It wouldn't. What's the right word? I would be surprised he made it, but I wouldn't be like, oh my god, I can't believe this would ever happen. I could believe that would happen.
Yeah, the thing that I'm like really worried about. I mean, I'm really stoked to see him play again, just in general, just to see his like shape. I mean, like you said, he's one of the only pros that's like played since back then. Because like, frankly, to be honest, like as like cool and innovative like Boxer was, like I actually don't think Boxer was like that good. I mean, like yeah, of course he was a pro and stuff, but like in terms of everything else aside from like the innovation, like if he were to practice like today, I don't think he'd be a top tier player. Like I think he was just creative, but I don't think his like macro or anything like that was really on point versus like someone like Nada. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I mean the thing that worries me about Nada for this group, he's got Larva round 1. He's playing against Rush, who's also a very good Terran. Like I know Rush is also a really strong and smart coach, and he's got Harangi, who I think is also a really good Protoss as well. I mean, not like the top tier Protoss, but I think he's like kind of in that mid tier level. So can't imagine Nada getting through these guys. I mean, some of the other groups have a lot of lesser known players that he can probably beat, but chances are kind of bleak for Nada here.
Yeah, I can't see him getting out. And then, what are the maps? Oh, that's right.
Let's talk about the map. Yeah.
Blockchain. What is this map, man? Like, I'm looking at it. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this isn't that bad." And then I saw the destructible assimilators. I'm like, "Oh, so we've got this weird Troy-like game, Troy-like map." And I remember playing on Troy. I remember not sending myself for Troy for STPL Future. Where are you? You're in. Versus Zerg, what do you do? Like they're gonna have at least 2 base, and one of the bases is not gonna be attacked because they're gonna take a middle base. So that makes 2-hatch Muta very strong.
Right.
Then they're gonna probably do an economic 2-hatch, so it's probably gonna be this 3 base, and then they can even take another mid base, and that can't be attacked.
Right.
And then really, as Terran, you have 2 bases. Okay, that's fine. I can give Terran 2 bases, but where do they go to take their 3rd base? They're going to take a middle base? Well, then it gets exposed.
Yeah.
Or, well, you could say, well, they can, rally Marines there or whatever. Well, then what if Zerg kills the assimilators? You can't rally there anymore, and then you got to start talking. And then this is specifically just for Zerg. Then what about versus Protoss? You take 2 bases, and then you have the same issue. How do you get a 3rd base without not getting recalled?
Yeah.
And then they don't even have to recall there. They could just force you to build a bunch of stuff defensively and make it wasted supply wasted resources, and then you recall somewhere else. Or they don't even recall. They just stasis everywhere. So to me, I don't know how Terran wins on this map, but a lot of Terrans got through, so clearly I'm missing something. But I did watch Nada's game versus a Zerg.
Yeah.
And he did 1 base play versus this 2-hatch Muta that I just talked about, but I feel like it was more... that Zerg didn't really play that well, as opposed to Nada just, being amazing.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, Gypsy, do you know anything about the newer maps? I mean, so we talked about Blockchain, which to me, I don't even, I've played it like 3 times, but I have no analysis of that map, to be honest. It's just kind of a, a toss-up, but there is Sylphid, and then there's also
and Whiteout.
Yeah. So what do you think about those maps in general? Have you
I
played
don't
them
know.
at all?
I haven't played any of these. I played Sylphid a bit.
Yeah.
Which I like. I mean, it's kind of like just a different version of Athena.
Yeah.
Or Athena 2 or whatever, that map. It's kind of like the same.
Right.
But I've watched some those when I was still watching some Flash VODs, and I kind of like the map.
Yeah.
Says, it plays okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about this. I saw some games on Whiteout and I liked it, but I don't know how I feel about the doodads.
I don't know,
they're just so weird.
I don't know at all. Yeah.
And Blockchain, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is they brought back Match Point.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of like match point, benzene. Like match point and benzene have been in forever, and
Yeah.
they're just like kind of interchangeable. Although I do think benzene is a better map,
I think Bending's
but
better too.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I'm not too excited about match point, but that's just
Right.
me.
Yeah, and just to like kind of for the chat here that has no idea what we're talking about. I'm sorry I don't have the graphics to kind of show you guys, but Whiteout is this really weird map. I don't think we've ever had something like it. Basically, it's kind of like a snowy, I don't know what the tile set is, snow or whatever, mountain map, but basically in the middle of the map where you travel or you go to your opponent's base and stuff is a whole bunch of trees. So like unless you're standing right next to the units, you can't see them. Like and that's just like I don't even know what to make of it. Like I don't know what's good or what's not good or like I don't even know. It's like I feel like you need air units to like actually see what's underneath you. So I think it'll be very interesting. I think it'll be very a little gimmicky to be honest. Like I do expect a lot of kind of cheesy play. Or a lot of weird builds, sort of similar to like ASL 5, but I don't think it's going to be as gimmicky as ASL 5. What do you guys think?
I mean, what do you? I don't know. Why do you think it's so gimmicky? It seems pretty standard to me. Besides these areas where you just can't see.
I don't. I mean, that's a pretty big thing, Like, yeah, I think the map layout.
Third base is kind. Actually, no. There's a third base too. Like that's really close by. Like I don't know. I honestly like. It seems like a decent to me. I don't know about you guys, but it's just the doodads are so weird on this map that I guess it's a completely new element, right?
Right.
But besides that, like it seems okay. It looks like kind of like a tile cross. I know. I mean, it's not a tile cross. It's just the same tile set, and it's 3 players, but it's not. It's nothing like that map. But still, like I don't know. Doesn't seem too.
Right. I think. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, I think the layout definitely is not so bad. It's just like I just don't know what to make of it. Like I don't know. Like Nyoken, you played on this map a little bit, right? Like, are you as Terran? Are you setting up in there against Protoss? Like, are you just avoiding that area? like what are you doing? Like, I can't even theory craft about what's good under those trees and what's not. And they all get miss percentage on ranged units, right? Or
Yeah.
no? What the hell? Like, what like?
I thought people were saying that it's not set up like that. I thought it's just
never mind.
lack of vision. I don't think
Oh.
the trees affect mischance.
Yeah.
But
I see.
I think the map's pretty good.
Okay.
When I look at it, I think it's okay. I think the vision thing or the doodad thing, I think it's different. I think it's different enough where you will see a lot of cool builds, but it won't necessarily be as crazy as like Third World and stuff. That was just cancer. So I think this map is pretty good. If I was to play Terran vs Protoss on there, I think I would decide, okay, what angle can Protoss like counterattack me from, and I would lay like a depot or racks wall, kind of like what you see on horizontal spawns on Circuit Breaker, where they depot wall off. The top or bottom bases, and then they go push. So I imagine that's probably what would happen in Terran vs Protoss. As far as Terran vs Zerg, I think that's where you'll see the most innovation, because you're not going to be able to see the mutas all the time if you go through the middle. so you might see like Valkyrie play possibly.
Yeah. Okay.
You might see Wraith play. That's possible. I could see that happening. But as far as Terran vs Protoss, I think it's pretty standard. Now, if Protoss ever got to carriers and you had to fight there, that would be a little cancer.
Because carriers are really good here.
It would be a permanent cliff for the carriers, but. Overall, I think that map's pretty good. Really, it's just blockchain. I'm like, what is this map?
Right. Yeah, blockchain. Right, blockchain is definitely kind of weird. So I guess the kind of consensus is that these are kind of interesting maps, but it's not going to be in ASL 5. I think ASL 5 was a little. It's almost like an asterisk. Like not to like take anything away from Rain. I think Rain definitely deserved it, but I mean, with an island map in Third World and stuff like that, like.
Definitely gifted that championship.
Right. So
But again, Whiteout, just because I feel like we've been only talking about Terran, I think this might actually be a good Zerg versus Protoss map too.
I think so too. I think every
Yeah.
map it tends to be a good Zerg
Yes.
vs Protoss map.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, that's
when-
true. Yeah.
Yes, when I look at that map, whiteout, the third base. First off, what's up with the gas? Like the gas, some of them
Yeah,
are
yeah.
on point, and then like I think the top right one is like you definitely have to have a fourth worker mining the
You
gas.
need
So
5
first off,
SCVs
what the
there or
hell is
something.
that? Second, it's not even a third base like circuit breaker, which isn't even the greatest third base or
Yeah.
benzene. You can get hit from like a circle that's like almost 80% of a circle, whereas
Yeah.
circuit breaker at least there's only 50% that they
Yeah.
can hit.
Right.
Like I can't imagine Protoss ever getting a third base almost, or even if they do, they have to commit so much, and then
Yeah.
Zerg is on 5 base or whatever. I don't see. I would have to rewatch the qualifiers because I agree. How does Protoss win on there versus Zerg? It seems
Yeah.
Well,
impossible unless they're hitting a timing.
TT1 keeps saying Protoss ASL 7 champ, but I think maps, except maybe blockchain and even blockchain, just because of those the gas things. Like I feel like all these maps are good versus Zerg versus Protoss.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
so too.
I'm not sure about blockchain, okay, but the other maps they seem pretty decent.
Yeah. All right. So what about predictions? Okay. So now we don't have Flash. We don't have what else did we say? C. We don't have Shuttle. I don't know if I'm missing anyone important. No Jaeyun, right? Who do you guys think is gonna take this? I mean, given the maps, given what you know, I mean, are there any sleepers? Like, who's your number one pick to win the entire thing? Maybe like the runner-up, and also let's say a sleeper who might be able to take it. Like you're not surprised, like a dark horse kind of thing. So why don't we just kind of go around? Gyps, you can start.
Oh, how are you putting me on spot?
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot, man.
Well, okay. First, I just want to mention there's like three new what's it, amateurs. Wow, I can't speak English today. But there's like 3 players who've never played in Kespa, so I think that's really exciting. That
Okay.
I kind of like. I hope they like kind of do well.
Right.
But besides that, like I don't know. People always people always say Rain is like really good and stuff,
Yeah.
but he's never really impressed me. Like I just
Ooh,
don't think
ouch.
I mean obviously he's
Ouch.
good and
Ouch.
he completely smashed me when I played him. So obviously he's good, but like yeah, it's just that feeling I get when I watch him play in tournaments. He just seems so shaky all the time.
Yeah.
So that being said, I think the obvious favorites are Sulky and Light. Or
Light?
Last isn't no. Okay, last isn't in this game, right? In this tournament,
No,
actually.
no, 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 no,
So
no.
it's just
Yeah, I think there's the 4 seeds, right?
oh no,
There's-
because they're seated. They're seated, right? That's right.
So who was it?
Uh,
Effort, last, mini. Who's the last seed, guys? Effort, last, mini. Damn, we should know this. Sharp. Yeah. Okay, so it's just effort, last, mini, sharp, plus all these guys in the round of 24. So yeah, sorry, continue.
yeah, that's hard. I don't know. I guess maybe yeah, Stolky or effort, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Then probably last, and then
Who's your dark horse?
besides Dark Horse.
Nada.
No, definitely not. No, I don't know. There's, I mean, probably Snow.
Okay, yeah, Snow's a good pick. I mean, like, I don't even think he's necessarily a dark horse, but I think he's
Snow,
somebody
no,
that, like,
yeah,
yeah.
he's not a dark horse, but like, I don't know if he's a dark horse. I mean, it would be Snore or Larva,
Yeah.
and I guess Snow did technically make it to a final, but again, it was that asterisk ASL, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he's really like proven himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a shame because that ASL really ruined by the maps. Like
Yeah.
it was so like blatantly like Protoss favored.
Yeah.
But so like I would say there's still dark horses,
Right.
maybe best, but I really don't think best. I don't know.
Okay. All right. How about you, Nyoken?
I agree with Effort and Sulky are the favorites. If I'm to pick a top 4,
Okay, pick a top. Yeah.
Effort, Sulky, Rain, and then see this is the hard one. Is the last one. I'm gonna say last just because I think he's the best one in here.
Yeah.
But I don't. to be honest, I don't think a Terran's making it that far.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
okay.
flat out just don't. If a Terran did, I think it would be last. If I'm
Yeah.
to pick a dark horse, I think you gotta pick Larva or somebody like Mind or Light.
Yeah.
One of those three. Oh, actually, I'll take that back. I'll say Action's a dark horse because
Okay.
Action
Yeah.
in his practice games, there are VODs of him versus Flash. When I watch him play versus Flash, like I'm like, holy shit! Like this
Yeah.
guy's nuts.
Yeah.
So, and on top of it, people have talked about Action having like the best work ethic
Yeah.
ever. So if we're gonna say like who's somebody you don't expect to win that could win, I think Action could be a good choice.
Right.
But yeah. Oh, and then Sharp, he made the finals last season, but to be honest, if I'm to make a prediction for him, I think he might even get knocked out in the first round.
Oh.
Depending who he gets.
That's
Wait,
what's crazy. Like he was the ultimate dark horse in that KSL season, right?
Yeah, he was.
I mean, no one
Yeah.
would ever expect him to do that well.
No, I mean, like, I always felt Sharp was something, and I remember Sulky even talked about it on his stream, where he said, like, back, not too long ago, like, he would just slap Sharp around, and well, I guess he still did, but I mean, like, but I guess Sharp, improved a lot. I think the crazy part was that he took, he went 3-0 up on Rain, and then I guess he almost threw it, but 3-0 against a guy like Rain, and I think just to kind of, like, talk about Rain a little bit, I feel
I
like
mean, Rain lost to Sharp. Okay, you think
Yeah.
Bisu would ever lose to Sharp?
well, he did throw
You
that
think-
game against Flash. Remember that one on Fighting Spirit where like he like had 5 bases, Flash was moving out, he got his entire army stasis, and then Bisu threw. I mean, not to say Bisu was supposed to win it, but I think Bisu
I
was
don't know,
definitely
man.
ahead.
You think Mini would have lost to Sharp? Never. I promise
Maybe.
you, never.
Maybe.
Never. No.
But what about
Rain is so shaky, man. I don't know what the
Yeah.
hype is, right? Like, but instant play, that guy, like, can you ever, like, is he ever gonna be like Flash? Like, okay, I know
No.
Flash is gonna win. Obviously, well, who's Flash, right? But what I'm saying is, Jaedong back in his prime, Bisu back in the prime, like Zhongbi, Fantasy,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
these guys are solid, and
Yeah.
they're consistently solid.
Right.
Like Rain's just gonna, I don't know. That's just me. But
Yes, I think the
What
thing
do I know?
about Rain to me is that like I agree with you. I mean, I think he also lost to Sharp in the ASL wildcard match too. But I think the thing about Rain that makes him like still high on the list for my book is that he's very reliable in all 3 of the matchups. Like, yeah, he might have some, shaky matchups and stuff like that, but a lot of the Protoss right now, they struggle against Zerg, right? He's also very strong against Terran, although I guess he lost to Sharp, but I don't want to take anything away from Sharp, because Sharp actually played really well in those games, but also Rain's PvP is also very strong. So I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I really like Rain. Not to say that I think he'll make it, but I think he's one of the more like well-rounded Protoss. But I think in general, for me, my predictions, I mean, like my heart goes out to Effort just because I love Effort, but I'm not going to choose him. I think I'm going to just make a bold prediction, say Larva's going to take it. I think this is Larva's time. I think Larva is a phenomenal player. I mean, he might have trouble ZVZ, and I think that's always kind of a struggle because he lost to Sulky in ZVZ, but I think versus Terran and versus Protoss, like Larva can beat basically anyone. I think he's also very confident. I think he can take it. I think as a runner-up, I'm also just gonna say it's last. I mean, it might be another Zerg. I mean, I know it's easy to say a Zerg, but I'm gonna say it's last because I think last is also very smart. He also adapts really well, I think. And my dark horse. A guy that I really like, that I guess he won't, but I do think Best is a very, very good player, right? He struggles against Zerg, but at the same time, like I do think he kind of has the potential to go very far, at least like round of 8, round of 4, potentially, although he is playing against 2 Zergs in his group, but he is really strong, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see him in the, quarters or semis or whatever, but I don't know. I'll be pretty interested to see how the maps kind of play out, but overall, those are kind of my picks.
I think it's cool, finally that like Flash is out. We can maybe see someone else rise to like we'll get to see the other tiers and just how big of a difference there might be between other players. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think we saw that in like KSL, but I feel like KSL. I don't know. I mean, I love KSL and all, but I think it's gonna get better like in 2019 when they start, scheduling better with ASL. But KSL historically, I mean, it wasn't not just Flash, but there were a number of other players that were not there either. So I think this is like the true, first time that we see a full-on ASL with just about everybody except for Flash to really see, who could take the crown. And yeah, I think it's gonna be really exciting. So.
But what about this? If Flash was playing, would he still win it?
Nah.
Ooh,
I think he would. I don't think he would win it. I think
Wow.
another Zerg will win it. That would be my prediction. If I was to bet money,
yeah,
I would say whoever the Zerg is in the finals,
Right.
if Flash even got there, would win it.
yeah. I think Flash. I mean, he's still obviously, it's in my mind, still the greatest player to ever live. But I mean, we have so many freaking good Zergs. Like he has a chance to lose to Effort, chance to lose to Larva, chance to lose to Sulky. There's a lot of good Protoss out there that can also take him out as well, like Snow. I also honestly do think Rain has a good chance. I think Best has a good chance against him too. So I think I think obviously Flash is always going to be a good bet, but even if he were there, I think he'll have a very hard time, especially with these Zergs come the quarterfinals and semifinals and stuff. So. All right. So we are a little bit over. I was gonna do a Q&A, but I do have to get going. So, Nyoken Gypsy, thank you for joining this. I don't know. First time we have 3 people on here, but if you guys want to join me again for next week where we talk about PBT, that'll be very cool as well. But everyone, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in next week, and next week's gonna be next Friday at 4 p.m. PDT, where we go over the Protoss side of things. So we stop talking about all this Terran talk. And so make sure you guys tune in. There's a Matrino link if you want to donate free of charge with some coupon codes. And if you are a Protoss player yourself, you can go ahead and also submit some replays so that we can analyze them. So make sure you guys also tune in and also follow Nyoken and Gypsy. Nyoken, do you have a 2-1 tutorial video on YouTube or not?
Oh yes, I do. It's on my YouTube. You should check it.
Oh wow. Okay, can we get a link? Can we get a link? Here, I'll try to find it.
I will have to say that I would change one thing in the video. I say to get in the cat, get it at 4 minutes, and the reason you get it at 4 minutes is if you get it at 4:20, you will die to DT. Those pesky.
Right. All right, so make sure you guys check that out. I mean, Nyoken has some really good content. Gypsy is also in streaming a little bit more, so make sure you guys give him a follow. Both top North American Terrans, and you can definitely learn a lot from them. So, all right, guys, peace out and have a good night. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you should have done that. Oh, that should be like the ending for like our our thing here. But all right, dudes. Thanks again.